Welcome to Flat Earth Debate, Uncut and After Show. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they premiere, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon, crypto and thanks button in the info box below the video. Speaking of patrons, I'm going to do a quick shout out to all of you who do support me on Patreon, so a massive shout out of thanks and appreciation to Twad Wazzle, Jason Hornsby, Christoph Fournier, JMels24, Unamento, M, Iron26, Endless, Goldie McKeon, Retro Bill, More Books, Cannabear, Fiber Oats, Bogey, Michael Kahn, John Kays, Patrick Gunnels, Banter, Will Brax, Mel B. Styles, Troy Shuker, Harry Blade, Mobile Max 777, Neo the One, Rob W, Open Minded, Reese Pound, Dal West Watson, Maria Neelands, Unbelievable Productions, Blue Ridge Ranger, The Real Gabster, Abraham Mohammed, Skeptic936, Life is Short, Texas Mike, David Wayne Foster, and Dank. So another massive thank you to all of you for supporting me on Patreon. Now I will hand over to whoever is in Discord and Google so you can enjoy their dulcet tones while I set up for today's live show.
Just change the name of things, you know? You used to call this, now you call it that.
Yeah, curve level. They still believe that.
Stevie! Mic check.
Hello.
Hey, Neil.
Hey guys.
Hello.
How cold is it over there? It's nice and sunny over here.
Very British of you.
You got your tea and crumpets yet, Nathan?
Always.
80 degrees in London.
Oh, that's beautiful. Is that Celsius or Fahrenheit?
Celsius.
Hey, and Nathan, how would you guys describe the U.S. empirical system? I think they should just call that in relation to humans, and the metric system is more quantified towards quantity.
You're asking me if I like the empirical versus metric system? This is
No,
too
I'm
early
just
for
saying
me,
they're
my friend.
different.
What?
Good morning. Has anybody ever heard of Point Nemo?
No.
Yeah, I saw the movie. It was great.
Yeah.
Finding Nemo.
No,
Oh,
it's down there. Oh, I'm sorry. Antarctica.
let me fill people in. We were talking about a TikTok of a Zen Garcia's court case, which I think is a huge feather in flat Earth's cap, if we have a cap, on top of our dome, you know.
Why is that?
Just, you know, the little court papers of Zen Garcia's court case that he won twice. It's in the main chat.
I heard about this a while ago, but what has it done, like, to advance?
It was 2019.
Let's say flat
wasn't it,
Earth.
Hold up. But then again, aren't all judges Freemasons? There you go.
Well, I missed everything. What'd you say?
Oh,
I
it's
said,
painful,
aren't all
painful listening to you two have a conversation.
They don't listen either.
I could summarise both of you sides of the conversation that you're talking past, but I just can't be bothered.
All right, Mr. Goody Two Shoes.
I'm only getting bits and pieces.
Enjoy your scone.
Why do I pay for internet? It's a joke.
Because there's a satellite somewhere. You got to pay it for it to be in orbit.
But it don't work. What the freak, man?
All right, everybody, remember, we got to keep it squeaky clean. Squeaky clean. Think Harry Potter.
No, I mean in any other business, you want when you pay for something, you want the service. It seems like this internet and all of this nonsense, they get away with murder. Because the bill's still the same. Your internet could be out for 3 days.
Oh,
You still gotta pay.
I heard right now is like peak internet usage. This is the morning when most people are checking their emails and stuff like that. It's always the heaviest in the morning.
Well, it's always morning some way, isn't it?
Yeah, but there's only a few mornings that matter.
Listen, Gene, I asked, what did this whole Zen Garcia thing, how did it advance flat Earth in any way, shape, or form? Because I heard about this a while ago.
A while ago was 2019, dude.
It's 2023.
It was the paperwork that he brought in, wasn't
Second
it?
time he's asked. So he's asking you what has it had? How has it influenced our state of play here in flat Earth? Zen Garcia outcome, that is.
Just a video. Who said that? I just said it was a nice feather in flat Earth's cap. That's all I said.
I don't see it that way.
Why not?
For us who can't disseminate flat Earth like you, Nathan, it's very good to just forward that video to kind of shut them up a bit. That's how
Yeah,
I'm
but
seeing
that's
it.
us. We know about it. I'm saying, how did it affect anybody else? I'd like to see if it affected anybody else outside of, the flat Earth family.
U.S. court gives people a lot of validation.
I wonder how it affected the people involved in it, like say the judge and all the other people involved, or do they know? And it's like just a game to them.
I mean, I think it was just the information presented, right? And the judge probably got to say, "Hey, man, your R is missing."
Yeah, I would love that. I'd like to hear that whole thing.
There's some type of little documents on there on that video on the live stream text chat I put up. Watch the video; it has a few documents on there, and it says he won twice.
Now, did he sue them, or they were trying to sue him?
I think he had a challenge on a book, and two people took him up on it, and he won twice.
Well, that means something then, doesn't it? That's
I'm
got to be
telling you.
something.
I'm telling you.
So, like, how come this isn't on the news? Like, boom, put it on a newscast. Put it on one of the major news stations. Man proves Earth is flat. Wins in a court
Probably
case.
was. Probably was a little write up about it or something.
No. What we get, I'll tell you what we get. Man dies trying to prove Earth is flat. Crashes in rocket. That's what we get.
Oh yeah, we get that jackass, don't we?
Oh my God. Did he even really die, that guy?
Oh no. It could be that fake news. But then
They
again, Neil,
distracted.
You got to remember, Neil, most judges are Freemasons.
That's what I'm saying. They sedated everybody, the population, with sports and entertainment, total distraction from everything. And I fall victim to it. And then they just do what they want. But if I'd say, I wouldn't even give it a high percentage. I'd say if 5% of the common man united, we could overthrow these bastards.
When have Americans ever rallied together? We fucking hate each other for the color of our skin.
Not that's the plan, right? That's how they want it, right? Divide and conquer. But if people, just the common man, because listen, if you're talking about it, let's say socially, right? You have your rich, you have middle class, you have your poor. If the common man would unite, we have the numbers. We have crazy numbers over them. How would they stop us?
Proved that the Earth was flat in a court case in 2019. Yeah, that's right. All that he wanted was somebody to prove that the Earth was actually curving 8 inches per mile squared, or going 50 miles per hour at least, spinning. And they say that we're spinning 1,000 miles per hour. Both of these.
This guy's just outlining the Zen Garcia case. Okay.
You should do some shit like that, Nathan. You should put up a little challenge. See if you can get your little British court one, and you can be wearing the little funny white hair and shit.
No thanks.
It's been done, wasn't it? David Wise did the Bitcoin.
Exactly. Hey, listen, Gene, you have to understand. You don't know by now. Nathan's totally happy just knowing Earth is flat. He don't care if anybody else knows. That's not his job.
That's not strictly true, is it? I'll do a show on it, Neil.
Yeah, but you don't listen, Nathan. Come on.
Share the show. Share the show, Neil.
Yeah, but what I'm saying, in your show, yes. But as far as the guy down the block, you're not going and talking to him about flat Earth.
No, I'm not.
Do I have to pull up the tapes?
No, I'm not doing
If
that.
If a Globy comes at me sideways with that bullshit, I will.
I'm not insulting you or anything or trying to. That's the fact. You do a show on it, and that's it. Do you care if the man down the block accepts it or doesn't accept it or believes it's a sphere or comes to a realization that it's flat? No.
It's their issue. It's their bondage, right? If you point out the chains and they ignore you, that's their problem.
Exactly, and you had an effect on me because I used to take it personally until I finally understood what you were talking about. Now, the information's there. Do what you want with it. Even with my son, I don't even talk to my son about it anymore, and he tries so hard to talk about it
because he wants to. Because the reality of anti-flat earthers is they're dealing with their own cognitive dissonance in regards to not being able to accept that it's flat. Well, their issue with not being able to accept the obvious and observable nature of reality isn't my concern. That's their cognitive problem, not mine. That's why I say share your pain.
Exactly. It only took 3 years, but I finally caught on. I got the upper hand. He's seeking me out. He constantly throws little digs and wants to get into conversation. I just don't bite.
Right, because he's wrestling with it mentally, isn't he? And he wants to. He wants you to join in that misery.
I salute you guys that joined Flat Earth through the math and physics. I joined through fucking Erik Dubay. So, that was my admission point.
What's wrong with Erik Dubay?
So did most of us.
What was that?
What's wrong with Erik Dubay?
No. I didn't get there because I'm so stupid. I haven't got there through math and physics.
I don't know why you're self-deprecating because of your coming to Flat Earth through Erik Dubay. There's nothing wrong with that. We may have our criticisms of Erik Debay here and there, but that doesn't mean that there's anything wrong with Erik Debay in general. Most of what he says is fine. What's wrong with Erik Debay?
You right. But because we hold a high standard over here, I don't know. It's a good intro, right? I mean, it's a decent intro, but I feel a bit ashamed that I can't get through it. Physically, mathematically, just more on the scientific point.
Yeah, but you didn't know. Once it was brought to you, you understand it. I came through Mark Sargent in that route. My brother told me about it. I found the Mark Sargent videos. And then when I came here, I learned a lot.
Let me say this quickly. When I voice verify people, one of the questions I ask them is how they came on the scene. And surprisingly, Erik Debay gets mentioned a lot. I'll just say that.
Exactly.
Well, he was all over the place.
Right. Did a lot of work.
Yeah, but
early on.
Like
good.
When I saw this, it was just me looking for conspiracy theories because I'm a big JFK guy and all that. So me being here in Dallas, Texas, I can pass by that place any day of the week, and I don't know, I just got a little tired of the conspiracy, and then I just heard flat Earth, and I was like, how fucking stupid are people? I just kept telling myself, how fucking stupid. I never saw no video on it.
Stop swearing.
Oh yeah.
So who killed JFK? The Giacondas killed him. You know that, right?
It was like
Sam and Chuck,
Woody
double cross?
Harrelson's. It was Woody Harrelson's dad and 7 other shooters.
The hit was
And
put
the
by
kill shot.
Sam and Chuck Giaconda, though.
The kill shot came from the floors. There's a manhole drain like a little line. There was a
So
young
you
teenager
say-
and they're supposed to shot him.
Who put the hit on him, though?
The other
they-
president.
You got any evidence?
They got
for
him
that?
nominated. They got him
Yeah,
nominated.
there's a documentary on Rumble called "Everything Is a Rich Man's Trick." Very good documentary.
It might be, but what evidence did they present that you would rely upon to substantiate that claim that the president was shot from a manhole because of, I didn't quite catch who you attributed it to, but nevertheless, what have you got to substantiate that is what he's asking.
All I did was watch a video, Nathan. That's all I did.
Not the video. What in the video substantiated it?
He gave names, but that's about it.
So it's he said, she said. There's no actual fact.
Good morning.
Morning, 10. Now, the mob presents facts.
We didn't say
They
that
got
either.
facts that...
We didn't say that either. I'm not immediately decrying all of something that you can't just regurgitate verbatim. So what if you can't regurgitate it? If you can't recall something specifically, fine. We just need him to say that. It's just, if you can't remember anything that you thought was compelling, then fine.
I'd like to jump in.
That I've read. One second. Out of everything that I've read on JFK, that documentary was probably the more informative one. It also had takes that I had never read about, though. So go ahead, Tim.
No, I was going to back you up a little bit here. I think I saw that. I'm not a JFK conspiracy guy personally, but I think I saw that video you're talking. It was based on the angle of the headshot and how could it come from the floor up there where Oswald was versus when the motorcade slowed down and passed through this one section of the street. There was this gutter, and it wasn't a manhole cover. It was kind of like one of those gutters that are right on the curb and everything goes into it. And there was
like a little linear drain.
Yeah, exactly. And so then they realized you can actually get in there through a manhole cover, and someone went in there and filmed from there. Now this is just memory. I only saw it once. They filmed it from there and the angle matched, and then they showed the film of the actual motorcade and how everything was perfect in the sense of people out of the way, Secret Service got out of the way or whatever, again, faint memory. And then the shot to his head from there could have happened because of the angle. That's all I remember.
I think I see the
Hello.
same thing. But what I'm saying is, we knew Lee Harvey Oswald didn't do it. I mean, they killed him. So you know right there he didn't do it.
Well, he was saying
Scapegoat.
I'm a patsy, right? He was saying I'm a patsy.
Exactly. He was a scapegoat.
Hello. Can you guys hear me?
Hey, Owen.
Hi.
Or should I call you AI with that new mic and voice you got?
What's my mic screwing up again?
You just sound totally different from last week.
I don't know what it is, man. I didn't change a thing.
It's not
Now
picking
you
you up
sound
on-
all right.
Yeah, when you plugged in the new webcam, it will have changed your sound settings, and you're probably broadcasting through the webcam mic. So you just need to go into your sound settings and set the default mic to whatever you.
I think you're
Middle of a
fucking
sentence.
demeaning
Middle of a
the problem,
sentence.
man.
Middle of a sentence. Yeah, you need to go in and change your sound settings so that the default mic is your Yeti or whatever it is that you use as a default mic, because it will have just changed the default mic to the webcam when you plugged it in. The USB will just see a new mic and assume you want that mic as your default. So change it back to the Yeti, restart the computer, and then rejoin.
Yeah, Nathan, you know a lot of stuff, boy.
I was waiting for the setup that I gave so obviously, and no one responded to it.
Gonna need a bit more detail than that, 10th.
Well, it's been a recent conversation that you can do F-all with an angle.
Oh, you talk about the angle that killed Kennedy. Isn't that something, huh?
Angles are used every day in so many things, golfing to archery to anything.
To assassinate presidents. I got you.
Yeah, it was subtle.
Hey, I'm about to connect this Blue Yeti microphone to an iPhone. Is that possible?
It is if you have the right connector.
It's just an angle.
Yeah, ask Roger Federer.
Now, why would they want to kill Kennedy?
Why? Because
wrong genre.
Yeah, let's go back to physics.
You just get Owen to do a quick sound check. No?
I was waiting for Gene to
Hello.
plug
Yes,
his.
you've sorted
there
it.
you go.
You were right, Nathan. It
Of course it
was
was.
like
Wow.
in the settings here.
Of course it was.
Even. Huh. No
Nathan
wonder I
knows a
sounded
lot,
shitty.
man. Now
I'll
you
make
sound
sure to
like
check
yourself.
that again soon because I'm gonna get my webcam, my newer one, like just now in 15 minutes. So
Now, how come
Hello.
he didn't? How come he doesn't hear himself sound different, but we all hear him sounding different?
Because the mic's connected to the computer as opposed to his ears.
Hello,
Gene, did
can
you
I
plug
ask-
your Yeti to you?
Hold on. Just
I'm
one
about
sec.
to right now. I'm about to just say this thing has a goddamn USB mini. Who the hell
Don't need
has
to
those?
blaspheme. What is the problem?
Yeah, you're worse than Owen.
Go on, Humble. You've tried about 4 times.
Okay, I'm just going to play a little bit of Tense What is Science and have a quick question for him after. I hope the sound is good.
What is a vacuum? Let's find out once and for all. Webster's emptiness of space. A space absolutely devoid of matter. A space partially exhausted as to the highest degree possible.
Sorry, that's the
Artificial.
wrong one. I wanted What is Science.
This is one of my payments that come in from.
Oh, I set this up and it's still failing me.
Slick, very slick.
Citations.
How come I sound like that?
Yeah, you sound, I knew it was you.
So you've all seen
No,
this
I'm just-
picture somewhere, right? So you got the science tree. Now we're going to go into the subcategories. So you got formal sciences, social sciences, applied sciences, and natural sciences, and even subcategories of those. For today's talk, we're going to be focused on formal science and natural sciences. So formal science is mathematics and logic, concepts, right? Abstract, whereas natural is physical. Let's dive into formal science. Unlike other sciences, the formal sciences are not concerned with the validity of theories based on observations in the real world. Well, what are they based on then? What's the modeling all about? We're going to find out. Scientific modeling, the generation of physical, conceptual, or mathematical representation of real phenomena that is difficult to observe directly. Well, if you can't see it, how can you observe it, right? So if you don't observe it, you're going to model something that you can't see. Do you see the problem here? Scientific models are, at best, approximations of the objects and systems that they represent. They are not.
Okay, I hope you get the idea there that it's the math that is being used in some situations, call it science. My question has to do with the wave function is only established and observable through math. Does that invalidate it as being a part of natural science?
Not only observable as being in math. Far from it. You're looking at something occurring and then describing the occurrence in terms of the probability distribution of the occurrence you are watching occur. So the mathematical description of wave function, probability distribution, describes what you've witnessed physically happening. It's not only existent in maths, the maths describes what you watched happen.
But my understanding is you cannot physically see anything in the wave function. That's a wave function. That's all been established through mathematics. Am I wrong?
No, yeah, you are. It's the pattern on the sensor or photographic plate that's not representative of light passing through one slit and hitting behind it, or light passing through another slit and hitting behind it, which is 2 bars of light. Diffraction, aka interference patterns, described mathematically as, or with wave function as a probability distribution, is the description mathematically of the interference witnessed on the photographic sensor.
Okay. Wow, I got a totally different idea. I'm gonna have to go back to the drawing board then. Thanks.
No worries. What's being described as wave function is the lines in various different patterns that then also go on to derive the convention of wavelengths. The various different types of light produce different diffraction patterns, and the diffraction patterns are described with their quote-unquote wavelength. What does that mean? They're various different probability distributions when witnessed on a photographic plate derives or gives you the convention of wavelength through wave function, aka probability distribution of the light as observed.
Like I said, I'm gonna have to look up some other quotes then that gave me the impression that I had. So okay, thank you.
Do you know what diffraction means? Because that's what you're looking at. What's observed when you're describing wave function or wave function collapse? Diffraction. What is diffraction? Interference. That's what it is. So instead of light passes through slit, hits behind the slit. And if it's a photographic plate, you see a little mark directly behind the slit where you'd expect it to be. It passes through the slit and hits behind it. So then you put another slit in, and light goes through the other slit and hits behind that slit. So what do you get if you keep firing light particle after light particle after... You end up with 2 light bars because you've got 2 slits. That's, if you want to term it mathematically, or how we use it to describe that, because of what's occurred when you go from one to the other, that's actualization. That's wave function collapse. If you started with the opposite of that, or it's not even the antithesis, just something that isn't that, which is light with interference. It's not going through the slit and hitting behind the slit. It's going through the slit and going somewhere random, seemingly. But it's not random. You can derive a pattern from where the light goes. It might go through the slit and hit where you would expect, where the bar would be formed. So you put a note on your paper, light went through slit and actually hit at point, we'll call it 0.2. But then you fire another particle and it hits at 0.7. So you go, oh, I'll just mark that down on my chart. It hit at 0.7. Fire another particle, please. So you fire another one through the slit. It hits at 0.9. So you write that down. And over time, you build up a pattern of where the light is hitting. And that pattern is the distribution of probability. Where is it likely to hit next? Well, because you don't know, it's uncertain where it's going to hit next. All you've got is the probability of where it will hit next. Where it will hit next is the distribution of where it's hitting. So you've got a probability distribution. The mathematical term for probability distribution, where the light is hitting, is wave function. When you go from probability distribution, aka wave function, where the light is hitting, and where, in terms of likelihood, it will hit next, from that to light doing what we expect it to do, going through the slit and hitting behind the slit, that's wave function collapse. From interference to actualization. Influenced by knowledge of which slit the path of the light goes through. If you know, you can cause the diffraction pattern to collapse into actualization. So if you know it goes through slit 1, it will go through slit 1 and hit behind slit 1. If you know it's going through slit 2 because you've got a slit detector on slit 1 and you didn't see a light particle go through the slit, you know it went through slit 2 and it will hit behind slit 2. That's actualization. Or, in mathematical terms, because of previously being merely interference patterns, that's wave function collapse. Not exactly a simplistic subject to understand, but that's the best I can do.
Yeah, but Nathan, you're a good teacher. Because I understand, as you're saying it, I knew the answers. And that's because the repetition of you keep saying it over and over again. I get it. You're a good teacher.
Well, Quantum Eraser is a good teacher. I'm a good parrot.
Same thing.
Yeah, no, my sentence is being publicly. So and now that I've got it recorded, I can slowly go through it for myself. I think in my mind, if you have a screen that is already showing you a wave function, I'm not sure why we need a mathematical representation of it. That's so. Thanks anyhow. I'll do some more.
It's because your wording's bad. It's not a representation. It's a description. How do you describe where? Let's change it from light because it just makes it easier if I use ping pong balls, right? And I have 2 slits that are ping pong ball sized. So we've got 2 ping pong ball sized holes, right? And at one end of the room, I've got a gun that fires only ping pong balls, right? Now, what happens is you fire the ping pong ball, and by way of the influence of everything around it, it might veer off slightly left and go through the left-hand one, and it might veer off slightly right. There's minor imperfections in this ping pong ball gun that's going to make it go through one or other, right? So you start firing one ping pong ball at a time, and it goes through, and behind the holes, there's a series of nets. 7 in total, right? Now, number 3 is obviously in the middle, and either side of it are, number 2 and number 4 are lined up directly with the ping pong ball holes. Have you got me so far? Is everyone following along? Probably not. Anyway, I'll carry on.
Can I just stop you for a second, please?
You can.
Just maybe if I could get a yes or no to this. If I took mathematics completely out of the operation, do I still have a scientific conclusion?
Yes.
If I just take math out of it.
You don't need to describe light interference as anything. I don't even have to call it interference. I don't have to further qualify that interference as wave function. I don't have to dumb down wave function to probability distribution. I don't have to do any of those things. They're just describing what you see. And what you see is interference. And I'm just going to... Go on.
Sorry. So if I said to you, we won't use math at all, can we still say we have a wave function?
Well, that is a mathematical term, so no.
So without wave function, without that description of what's going on, which only gets us there by the math.
No, it doesn't.
Oh, sorry. Okay, that's where. No, honestly, I'm probably looking more thick by the second. So I'm going to slowly.
It's hard to understand, but I'm trying to give you an analogy with something that doesn't involve any maths. But you interrupted halfway through with my ping pong ball example. You're firing ping pong balls through 2 holes, and they're going through. And if it goes through the left-hand hole, it goes into net number 3. Yeah, and if it goes through the right-hand one, it goes to net number 5, if I've got my numbering correctly. I'm concentrating on about to start the live show, but I'll try and rattle my way through it. Right, so you start firing ping pong balls through, and you're firing them through, and because you're watching which ping pong ball goes through which hole, it always hits the net directly behind the ping pong ball. Okay, you with me so far? Then we say, right, we're going to change something slightly in the way that the ping pong balls get fired. We're going to speed up the rate that they get fired. Right? And you speed up the rate and find that your ping pong balls aren't doing what they were doing before. What they're doing now is going through. You can't quite tell which one they're going through because they're going so fast. And sometimes they'll go through and hit number 1. Sometimes they'll go through, hit number 2. Sometimes they'll go through and hit number 3. Sometimes 4, 5, 6, and 7. It seems to be random. They're just going through and hitting all the nets. They're not hitting the net directly behind the hole anymore. Okay. So you're going, what's that? Well, that is, as I've just described it, ping pong balls going through a hole and hitting in random nets rather than the net you'd expect them to hit. That is as dumbed down as I can make it without using any mathematical terminology whatsoever as far as I can think of, other than numbering the nets, which I didn't need to do either. You can just say, well, it went through the net behind, and now it's going to the ones off either side. You'd have to number them, right? Well, when they're going to the ones off either side of the net you expected it to, that's them having an interference. There's something interfering with where they go. That's how I then start getting into the realms of the description. But you're asking me, well, if you haven't got the word interference, have we got anything to look at? Yeah, the ping pong balls going through the holes, going into different nets, akin to light travelling through a slit and not hitting behind, going off to the side. Interference. Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon, and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon, crypto, and thanks button in the info box below the video. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel, so please share the show on Facebook and Twitter. Now we are joined by, see my screen, my light's blinding me, Righteous Force, Neil, 10th Man Rising, Arwin, Brian's Logic, and a whole bunch of people in Discord, so welcome one and all.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Whoa.
Mic check,
Let's
mic
get
check,
it
mic check.
on. Let's get it
Hey,
on.
good afternoon.
My mic check good?
We were talking to you in the pre-show, Gene.
Yeah, but now this is the Blue Yeti.
Oh, you got your Yeti plugged in. Oh, well, that makes all the difference. Clear as
Well,
crystal.
can you tell
It
the
does.
difference?
I
Very
can
good.
tell the difference. It's good.
It is good. Should we do a bit of
From Dallas,
housekeeping?
Texas.
Let's see if we can do it in a bit of reverse order, so we at least cover some of the questions that we never even...
Can we have intros?
Gene, please stop doing that. Please. So we'll go in reverse order. We'll do a bit of housekeeping, but we'll start with questions we don't often get. So any evidence of a self-perpetuating molten iron core at the centre of the presupposed spherical Earth?
No evidence whatsoever, because the Earth is presupposed to be a sphere with a molten center. You can't even get the sphere part right, so why do we even go there?
Any evidence of the R value that it's based on?
There we go. So you need an R value to have a sphere, and we've been asking for the longest of time, show us the R value. And they gave it to us in math. It's 3959 miles from the center to the surface of the sphere Earth that they say we're on. And according to their math, Earth curve, horizon, would have limitations based on observation height of the observer. And the black swan shows that's beyond its limitation, meaning that Earth curve isn't where it's supposed to be, and it changes with the weather, which is precisely what we've been saying is perspective and weather conditions. Optical.
Any evidence you can have gas pressure without the necessary antecedent of a container to press upon?
I'll let someone answer this one.
Artificial Intelligence answered. You can check out that video, I released it yesterday. So it's called Artificial Intelligence Knows Outer Space is Fake. Do you? And it's got a picture of Wheatley from Portal in space with a little clip of... I couldn't find a good example of this because the only diagram I've got is a simulation with a little crappy picture of an Earth that's spherical with the gas expanding into the sky vacuum. It's not a great depiction of it. But what I found in the Portal archives, because it's quite an old game now, was Wheatley being sucked through a portal from Earth to the moon. Now, upon doing so, all of the gas suddenly rushes through the portal. It's like, but as they're looking back at Earth from space, it's like, well, what's keeping the gas from doing that on that planet over there? What's the difference? There isn't one, right? It's just another cloud-based planet in a sky vacuum without the gases expanding into it. Why would you need a portal to the moon to suck all the air out? Nevertheless, it shows a picture of Earth with gases rushing into a sky vacuum, which was quite useful for that demonstration, hence is on the thumbnail. But anyway, if you want to check that out, it's called Artificial Intelligence Knows the Sky is Not a Vacuum. Do you? Or knows that outer space is fake. Do you? So check it out. That's been released yesterday. But is there any evidence you can have gas pressure without a container?
Well, just think about the words you're using.
Negative.
It's a good question. It's a good question, but the words you're using. If you have gas pressure and a vacuum, I mean, that's like an oxymoron situation here.
It is.
A vacuum would be the absence of gas pressure.
Exactly. The sky's described as an absence of gas pressure. It's like, well, okay. Well, where does the vacuum begin? Because if we've got gas pressure here and there's nothing between us and the sky vacuum, then as they rhetorically give to us, there's a gradiated gas pressure going up to the sky vacuum. Well, therefore, there's gas pressure in that sky vacuum and it's not a sky vacuum. But further to that, you reassert as a fundamentalist religious ball-believing fundy that it's a 10 to the minus 17 tour space for gas to fill. Well, gas is going to fill it. That's what gas does. It's not going to stick around on a sphere.
They got another problem. They also claim not only 10 to the minus 17 torr of vacuum, they also claim we got gas pressure here on Earth, and somehow where those two meet, they behave themselves. But they're able to get rockets and so-called satellites into this vacuum with no problem.
Yeah, and it'd be no problem for the gas to do the same and we'd all be dead. Any scientific
Correct.
evidence of gravity?
Science.
Well, the only one is when you're dead, they put you 6 feet under, but that's after you're dead.
What's that got to do with gravity?
Nothing. That was just a joke.
Very morbid.
Yeah, it is morbid. No, there's no such thing as gravity. Neil deGrasse Tyson picking up a microphone, putting energy, taking it out of a place of rest, say that it was sitting on the table, and then dropping it, and saying that describes some central force from the Earth pulling it. You can laugh all the way to the bank with that one.
I still think somebody should make a video as Neil deGrasse Tyson. And when he does that, instead of him dropping a mic, that microphone is actually a helium balloon and it goes up. I would love to see that done.
Well, it's ludicrous the way he's doing it anyway. He's got something heavy in the medium of light air. Everything will drop that's heavy than air. Everything, not just mics. But then to jump from that and say that it's because of this thing called gravity, because you need it to keep your oceans on the ball, and that is a joke. Because you can't even keep a gas particle on the ground.
But that's their rhetoric. Right?
Well, I know, but a gas particle is much lighter than ocean water combined together, and they can't even keep one gas particle on the ground. But there's no such thing.
That's what puzzles me. He don't know that? This guy doesn't know that?
Of course he knows that. He's a priest.
Okay, well, we're going to be covering a video that's been suggested by 10th Man, which is specifically about gravity. And it's another big think. We've done a few of these. I don't know what it is about big think and their anti-flat earth / globe earth rhetoric, but clearly that's their thing. So fine, whatever. That's what we're covering today. So this is big think. Erik, how'd you say his name?
Verlinde.
Huh?
Verlinde. It's actually Sleeping Warrior introduced me to this guy over a year ago, and I found him again, and I've watched this video, and it's very, very good for our show because of what we've been covering with AI and the subject of gravity and how it only exists in the math. This guy basically admits to this towards the
gravity,
end.
of course,
Yeah.
is something that have, many people have already thought about it. It's something that we see every day, and it's not like it's...
Off to a very bad start. Something we see every day? No, we don't. What's he talking about? Are we supposed to...
I don't know. I don't see it.
I don't see gravity.
It's
right. I don't see bending pseudo-Riemannian force space-time. I don't see bowls. I don't see wells. I don't see lensing. These phenomena they ascribe in the sky to being the effects of gravity aren't something that you and I see every day. That's absolute horse crap.
Exactly.
Well, the reason he's saying that is because they programmed us from birth that when something falls, that's what we're seeing. It's not that he sees it in actuality. It's the programming he's affirming.
Okay, well, again, I'm going to disagree with that because daily I look out the window and see clouds. But daily I don't see things falling. Where do I see things falling? Okay, when it rains, but as a general rule of thumb, unless I spill a drink, when are things falling? I can pour things maybe once or twice a day, but as a general rule, things are in equilibrium. And there's an exception to that, which is when I look out the window, anything above the horizon isn't doing that.
Nathan, there's an opening for redemption when the proper question is asked, like you just did.
Okay.
When that question is never asked, you're missing the cipher to decode the programming. So you're still in the programming.
Okay.
Not existent in our every life. But what I mean by that it's an illusion is that one would eventually like to know where it comes from, an explanation. Up to now we have, well, descriptions. I mean, Newton, of course, is the one famous for first writing down a theory of gravity.
Not a theory. So Newtonian gravity, right, wouldn't be deemed a theory because it hasn't got any scientific validation and hasn't got an observed phenomena. The phenomena being claimed in Newtonian gravity is that mass attracts mass. Mass does not attract mass. That is simply not the case.
And he could describe why apples fall and why the moon goes around the earth.
Why apples fall, excluding the fact that they've grown over a very significant period of time using huge quantities of energy to grow up from the ground, to then be placed in disequilibrium for the benefit of reproduction, to fall later. So there's a huge amount of expended energy that's been ignored in Newtonian explanations for why apples fall. Oh, but also why we assume the moon falls in an orbital motion around a spherical Earth, and the Earth falls in a spherical orbital motion around the sun. Right? No. You see, I don't look at apples falling all day because they're not. But I do see clouds every single day. There's the odd exception to that. But for the most part, no, things aren't falling like apples unless they expend a huge amount of energy to put themselves into that position so they can benefit themselves by reproducing in that way.
Using the same basic equation for gravity, but he described it. He had to assume that gravity...
And by equation for gravity, you mean calculating the disequilibrium in air with solids, right?
He was there. And then had to write down a law that described that when two masses...
It's not, laws would be descriptions that are inviolable. Things that occur in nature always, and the descriptions thereof. A Newtonian quote-unquote law was never a law to begin with, because it wouldn't be violatable in any way, shape or form if it was ever to be considered a law. It wasn't, it isn't, it never was.
Are at a certain distance.
Yes.
Pause, please. Can you just back up and just listen to what he said this next go around for just what he said the last 7 seconds? Just back up and just let him say, okay, he said something key.
How they attract each other. But he was also not very happy with the fact that he should just assume that these things, these objects, attract each other and without even anything in between. So if there are two masses in empty space, there's no nothing that really happens between them, but still.
Or to put it another way, mass doesn't attract mass.
They're attracting each other, and he thought that was...
But they are still attracting each other, so there's nothing in between them making them attract each other, but they are still attracting each other. No. See, that's a contradictory, nonsensical, Newtonian double-speak assertion.
Kind of mysterious, and that...
What's the mystery of the double-speak of why things with nothing between them aren't attracting, yet they are still attracting?
Was something he would have had liked to explain in a better way.
Explain what? You got two masses, they're not attracting each other. But what if I assume, comparable to an orbital moon, that they are, because moon's falling? This is nonsense. This isn't something,
Nathan,
a circle that needs squaring.
Nathan, we do have what he says. If you go to Master D for a second, I put that excerpt of what he did say. Let me know when it's up, I'll read it. And this guy's tying, hey, good morning, Chocolate. And this guy's tying exactly to this citation that Anthony gave us.
Okay, go on.
It is inconceivable that inanimate brute matter should, without the mediation of something else, which is not material, operate upon and affect other matter without mutual contact, as it must be. If gravitation, in the sense of Epicurus, be essential and inherent in it. And this is one reason why I desired you would not ascribe innate gravity to me. The gravity should be innate, inherent, and essential to matter, so that one body may act upon another at a distance through a vacuum without the mediation of anything else, by and through which their action and force may be conveyed from one to another, is to me so great an absurdity that I believe no man who has the philosophical matters a competent faculty of thinking can ever fall into. Gravity must be caused by an agent acting constantly according to certain laws. But whether this agent be material or immaterial, I have left open to the consideration of my readers. That's Isaac Newton.
Keyword absurdity.
So later came Einstein, and Einstein, with his theory of relativity, eventually...
Not a theory. So bending conceptual medium isn't a theory. Scientific theories are backed by scientific validation based on cause and effect reasoning with a validatable hypothesis actualized in a test known as an experiment, followed by a description of that validated experiment, which you can call a theory. Einstein had none of the above. It's not a theory.
Realized that also gravity has to be described in a different way, and it took him quite some years.
Why? When mass doesn't attract mass, you have to describe the non-phenomena of mass not attracting mass in a different way. No, you don't. It's absurd.
But then eventually he wrote down a theory.
Here we go again. He wrote down a theory. No, theories come out of systematic experimentation based on hypotheses that suppose the cause of a natural phenomena. That's not what Einstein's doing. Scribbling stuff down, that's not that.
Where he thought about space and time together.
He thought about it, so it's conceptual. It's kind of derived up in the Einstein mind's eye of this idiot. Yeah, that's what it is. Him thinking about it. Right? In science, you validate the cause of naturally occurring phenomena. That would be to say, if gravity, his thoughts and feelings and musings on this idea that he's got, were to actually be considered in physical terms, then you'd experience them physically and ask why they happened. Yeah, he's not doing that, is he?
But then how did he get away with it?
And then his explanation of what gravity would be is that...
So what gravity would be, based on his musings and thoughts? Yeah, I think we just covered that.
There's masses which curve space and time. And
space and time. See, time isn't a spatial dimension. So space and time? When qualifying how long things take, because we've managed to derive a system to describe it based on various aspects of the world that we experience, including the lights in the sky. That description, we were asked in the pre-show if certain physical occurring phenomena, which are described with maths, only exist because of the descriptions in maths. This is the opposite of that. This is something in maths, derived in the mind's eye of Einstein, being ascribed to needing an explanation. It doesn't. It's been dreamt up by some guy.
Then the motion of planets and...
Oh, I see. So suddenly, from the musings of Einstein to the motions of the fundamental premise of the world and the lights in the sky. Yeah, anybody else seeing how absurd this whole Einsteinian nonsense is?
Of the Earth around the moon, or the moon around the Earth.
So what, with the begging the question fallacy of the heliocentric system very much intact when he made these musings?
Is then described by thinking...
Notice how we got a lot of described. In science, explanations are provided because you've seen something happen and asked why it happened. And then you go forth to try and validate the cause of that effect. Now that's an explanation as opposed to a description. Who's doing that? Yeah, Eli. Thanks, Eli.
Thinking about...
No, that was me, I'm sorry.
Moving in this curved space-time and how then objects are...
So now we're moving through curved space-time. So within 3 sentences, we've gone from Einstein's musings to there being orbital motion and a time dimension / or quote, space and time, to now we're moving in this theoretically imagined by Einstein medium he described in maths. A 4th dimension. Utterly and thoroughly absurd.
Can I say something?
Yeah, go ahead.
I hear a lot of description, but I don't hear any experiment. So it's not science, any of this.
No, it isn't.
Well, making their orbits. And the reason they go around then in circles is that...
So reason, that would be an explanation, wouldn't it? When you give reasons for things, that's explaining why they happen. And the begging the question fallacy of orbital motion that is assumed with the musings of Einstein's gravity dreamt up in the mind's eye of Einstein, and then here we are giving explanations for it. Well, we're very much going to have us moving through geodesics in space-time. Because suddenly the world that we experience through time dilation in a sky that's been used to derive a convention of things and how they elapse to our experience, aka time, is now a dimension. No, it just needs somebody like me to break down this absolute absurd nonsense for people who are listening. Because if they actually think about it for more than a few seconds with somebody seeming to be intelligent describing it to them, they realise that they're travelling through time as a medium, something physical, and then listening to nonsense bullshitters describe how they can bend and dilate time and travel through it like you're in a DeLorean. This is utterly absurd. Of course,
Nathan,
everybody's
may I
brainwashed
comment
with this
here?
because of all of the propaganda that we get through the movies and the TV about what time isn't. How it's somehow a dimension. How somehow we've got parallel universes and timelines. Go on, Tent.
Nathan. Yeah, Brian, you want to go first?
No, hello everyone. I go after you then.
Okay, yeah. So remember at the beginning where he's having a problem with his programming of mass attracts mass. So, okay, we have to find another way. So the programming is so strong that since the mass attracts mass fails, and giving him a clue that they lied about gravity and maybe he should get deprogrammed, they just go to Einstein as a pivot point to figure out another way to explain the programming. So they stay within the programming of the lie of the sphere Earth. This is what's happening. So mass doesn't attract mass. We couldn't do it. There's something's wrong. So now we're going to look at it this way, rather than saying, wait a minute, if mass doesn't attract mass, I've been lied to. Instead of waking up, now he is in position to program people, because the first programming wasn't good enough. He's going to help the program move on. The lies.
that
Well, I would
space and time
say
itself.
sorry, Nathan.
Sorry, I completely forgot that you were there, Brian. My bad. I'm sorry. Can I just do a quick shout out, if you can hold that thought for just 1 second? Shout out to Humble H. He says, not at all. I'm quite short with him in the pre-show, and he's now giving me money. That makes me feel incredibly guilty. Humble H has given me $10 because he asked about light diffraction. And I told him, so he's given me $10 for it. Thank you so much. I really appreciate the support. Actually, Humble H, I'm not going to turn it down. Thank you for the super chat. Okay, go ahead, Brian.
Yeah, I'll try and keep it concise. Two things. One, Newton used the word gravitas in his Principia Mathematica. Gravitas means weight or heavy. Gravity is a bastardization of that word, and it refers to a cause of weight or heavy. Whereas the words sound the same or similar, but they have two completely different meanings. As gravitas does not have anything to do with a claimed cause. That's gravity. So the word gravity was not something that was in his original Principia Mathematica. Secondly, Einstein said that we would observe apparent orbits, and because who observes orbits? Can you observe the back of Jupiter? You can't. You only see whatever would be that you see. You see one thing. You don't see anything going behind anything. So orbits are pre-assuming that they exist, that they're a pre-assumption.
Right. I get to string a few decent words together that sound nice together now. So gravity is an etymological bastardization of gravitas. There's a string of words you weren't often hear.
Yeah.
Hey Nathan,
Yes.
Does that have any correlation with gravitas, the other word, meaning with grace or something like that?
Well, there's different. You're saying if somebody speaks with gravitas, has that got connection? Yes, because the word is being implied to mean speaks with weight. In the same word, you can contextualize it with inference to language. And does that have a connection to weight? Yeah, it does. Linguistically.
The more you know.
Also seriousness, right? Because like when they say like you don't understand the gravitas or the gravity of the situation,
Yes.
it's like the seriousness of it.
The weight of it, yes.
Yeah, yeah.
The pressure this situation could create in a downward vector is obviously what they mean.
In a downward vector, of course, yeah.
Itself is curved in the sense that things don't move in straight lines anymore, they go around. So that was his explanation, but he had
things that he's describing that were moving in straight lines but aren't moving in straight lines anymore were things that weren't necessarily moving at all, but are described as being moving in a heliocentric motion. So the lights in the sky, for example, have changed how they moved many times in the last 500 years. And the descriptions that mathematicians and astronomers have ascribed to those lights and how they move has changed and been argued about and has had huge amounts of money. That reminds me, actually, I've been sent a book by Dr. John Dee that's called The Church, I'm going to have to look at the book to get the title now, but something about astronomy in the church is the title. And all it does is go through some of the things in more detail that are basic understanding of to begin with, and it's nice to go through what is basically a very heavy bit of reading and be able to actually churn my way through it because I've got a base understanding of what it's describing. And what it's describing is the church's vested interest in figuring out when the hen Easter falls, because the Gregorian calendar isn't really matching very well with how the luminaries work when they're all on different cycles. So if you're going to say that we're going to work on a Monday to Friday with a Saturday and Sunday weekend, and Sunday's the day of rest and church going, and that's when we have Easter, but the Easter's going to come after the vernal equinox, but the Sunday after the full moon after the vernal equinox isn't something that's easy to just disseminate to the churches really easily so they can plan when they're going to have bloody Easter, because we're working off this stupid calendar that doesn't work. So we're going to argue the toss about a way of figuring out how the motion of the stars actually tracks, so we can figure out with meridian lines where we're going to say Easter actually falls. For that, they spent an absolute shed ton of money in the last 500 years and argued the toss back and forth, right, to get to where we are today with descriptions and models of how the lights in the sky move. And that's all it is. When you get to this stage with this guy's talking about gravity and things falling around and moving in straight lines to be then described as moving through bent time dimensions, aka bent geodesics, you've got the reification of a time dimension to explain away a phenomenalist phenomena. That would be mass attracting mass to explain how we're stuck to a bloody ball, moving through a vacuum, with the other lights in the sky orbiting around a sun, rather than us observing how they don't seem to make sense from our vantage point when we try and study them, which is the reality of the situation. Almost 100 people watching. How long have we been? Oh, we're half an hour. That's about right. Shout out to the people who shared the show. That's why we've got almost 100 people watching. Hopefully we'll get to 150 today. You never know how it'll go. Getting very passionate about this guy talking about gravity. It's not even my specialist subject. Where's Anthony when you need him?
he had to
So
write
you're
down.
saying the solar system don't exist?
The solar system is a system that's described as sun-centric. Solar-centric, heliocentric. That's sun at the centre. Us moving around it on a physically large mass that's not creating any effect or phenomena for us to study beyond the lights that we're trying to explain by having us physically move to generate no effect to have as a phenomena. It's a workaround for us not knowing how the bloody lights in the sky work. That's all heliocentrism is, as beautiful and as eloquent as you might want to describe it. We're not on a ball. Somebody placing us on one to mathematically try and square a circle that they can't figure out with the sky and how it works and the patterns. That doesn't mean we're stood on a bloody ball. Shout out to a couple of super chatters.
We do know how the stars in the.
We know they're going to be above. That's for damn
Go
sure.
ahead.
You're breaking up a little bit. I'll just do a couple of shout outs. Rubinson Gaydon, thank you very much for the super chat.
Do you want to shout it out?
I am. Rubinson Gaydon, thank you for the super chat. What goes up and don't come back down in the globe? Question mark. What goes up and don't come back down? gas. Although strictly that's not true either, because it goes in all directions. You know, occasionally it's going to hit another gas particle and bounce in the opposite direction, which may very well be down. So, but thank you for the super chat. Really appreciate the support. Also, shout out to Misfit FB850. Should I read this before I read it out? When you mention things don't fall unless taken from equilibrium is kind of profound to me right now. Keep up the good work, Nathan and panel. Okay, so he's saying things aren't going down unless they're taken and removed from equilibrium. Yeah, that's an Anthony Riley thing. Again, he's getting a lot of mentions today. So he described it accurately as fall arrest. Because if you've got something that's in that equilibrium as you described it with your super chat, imagine the Wile E. Coyote and Roadrunner. You know, when Wile E. Coyote gets to the edge of the cliff and the cliff falls away, and he's just left stood there, and then he looks down and realises there's no cliff and then falls down. Well, before the cliff broke away, if he just sat there and didn't do anything, he's in quote-unquote equilibrium, but he isn't in equilibrium. He's in fall arrest, because he's still significantly above the surface, which could be, you know, down below the cliff with a sea front and a beautiful view, or whatever in the cartoon. But the example stands. You know, you can be in quote-unquote equilibrium, but still find that the thing beneath you or holding you or in fall arrest isn't strong enough to maintain your weight and eventually breaks, and there's a significant amount of air, which you are more dense than, to fall through beneath you until you reach the next thing that's more dense than you are to stop you again and put you in fall arrest. But you might reach the ground on the beach and go, right, well, that's it now, equilibrium. And then suddenly the ground starts falling and you go into a cave below the surface level. You know, you're still in fall arrest. Anyway, really good super chat. Thank you very much. And I'm glad that it's been profound to you. Anybody else?
Sorry, Nathan.
Yeah, go ahead.
My fish died, and it went up, and it stayed up for quite some time.
Such a sad story.
Yeah, just trying to answer to the question, what goes up, it doesn't go down. Yeah, my fish.
Oh, did you have a little service? Did you want us to maybe pay some respects to Goldie, the goldfish? No, moving on.
Equation for it, which again assumed that gravity is there, because he basically wrote down that.
There you go. That sentence sums it up beautifully. Couldn't have done a better job of summarising exactly the situation. Let's just read it out as it's subtitled. Which again assumed that gravity was there because he basically wrote it down. Oh no, I didn't have the it. I've paraphrased slightly. My bad. That wasn't intentional. Yeah, there you go. It's assumed to be real because Einstein wrote it down. Okay, that should wake a few people listening up to what the real situation of gravity is. Go on, whoever, in G+.
Hey.
If that's right.
Who's saying hey?
That's right.
That's right.
Oh, hey, Flatsoid. Sorry, I didn't see you come in. I'd just let you in without looking who it was. Good to have you. We're covering...
Yeah, it's good to be here.
Covering big
By
things.
the way, I wrote unicorn farts down on a paper. Does that make it real?
Strictly speaking, yes. Apparently very good for what ails you.
That the matter curves the space-time. So in a certain way, that's still a description, or what I should say is, well, one would like to understand again why this description sort of, how you can understand.
He can't even phrase it himself. How this description of something that doesn't happen that Einstein wrote down is what requirement of any consideration whatsoever by anybody. Yeah, that would be how I'd phrase it. In the same way as we could ponder all day about how we should... Fuck me, what is... Go on.
I'm sorry, it's probably my internet is sketchy. It was a quiet part. I was going to say, matter curves space-time. What proof does he got for that? If you break each word down, what could possibly cause what he's saying?
It's strictly inaccurate, and if I didn't catch him say that, if you're saying that's how he phrased it, then he's wrong in how he's phrased it, because the strict definition would be to say that the uneven distribution of mass causes the curvature of space-time, aka gravity. So gravity is the effect in Einsteinian bending fourth dimensional space-time, but the cause is the uneven distribution of the mass, which previously just attracted itself in Newtonian. So he's wrong if that's how he's described it.
And the effect of that he's calling gravity is not a force of attraction between masses.
No.
From a more basic point of view. So what I've done in my...
So we need to figure out how we can understand the nonsense that Einstein wrote down with the conceptual medium that you reified. We need to understand that better, do we? No, we don't. I don't know why we're even pondering it, to be honest.
Paper is try to start from a from a point of view where you don't assume gravity to be there. You would like...
Why? So why not do what science would suggest you should do if you're trying to study something, which is first see it, to study it, not first assume that the thing you're going to be studying and trying to explain actually exists. Again, if you're watching this and this doesn't set alarm bells off if you're a globe-believing muppet, then I don't know what will. He's just told you. Yeah? First thing you're going to do isn't see something happening, is assume that it's real. Assume it's there. Yeah. What's there? Don't assume something's there. Just show it me there. Show me space-time. Then we'll do something with what you've shown us. Don't assume you've got bending geodesics in space-time and then figure out how you can simplify this so people can understand it when you describe how it affects their fundamental reality, which it doesn't. 110 people watching. Go ahead, whoever that was.
Yeah, I was going to say, what Einstein did is he came up with a cause, and other people then came up with the effects. So he didn't see any effect, and not only that, but the gravity he explains as an effect has nothing to do with the previous force of attraction between masses. So he just gave everyone the cause of something he never experienced and has never observed. And other people came up with the effects, which is things like the decay rate of cesium being a change in the rate of time, stuff like that.
Like to explain it by seeing how you can derive it from a more microscopic set of equations where gravity itself is not assumed, but then just follow.
So from it being assumed to maths, that's descriptions. So from descriptions of the assumption to it not being assumed anymore. Why? Because you've done some maths on something you assumed. Again, alarm bells.
From a certain
logic. Not just math.
He actually said
just math, but yeah, go on, Brian. That's
you say it, if you can remember exactly. Go on, you say it.
Yeah, microscopic math. What is microscopic math?
It's a way of making it sound like you're looking at something through a microscope. You're looking at something very small. Microscopes look at things that are physical. So he's saying microscopic maths to give the mind's eye of the person listening to this the impression that we're looking at the physical and then describing it with maths, when in reality, we're taking an assumption of something we haven't seen happen, describing that with maths, quote unquote, microscopic maths, and then taking it to a place where we don't have to assume the thing that we assumed and mathsed. That's what he's just said.
Reasoning.
This winter.
How should we think
if you think about particles, very tiny particles, then it turns out that things like positions and velocities are not very precisely defined. You have to take into account the fact that there's an uncertainty in when we look at something, we may influence.
Oh, that's going to hurt.
Yeah, that's bollocks. No, that is not correct. Go on, Adam. You got there first.
Well, this is not my forte. You'll be better at this. But when I hear that one, Einstein and Heisenberg's uncertainty principle, the two aren't compatible.
Correct.
Brian, fill it in. I think Einstein requires you to have a fixed speed and a fixed position, whereas Heisenberg's uncertainty principle dictates that you can either know the position or the speed, or the position, not the two commensurate. And one, as you know one more closely, the other one becomes less defined, which means you can't use that in Einsteinian mathematics. But Heisenberg's is reality based as opposed to Einstein's. That makes sense?
Yes.
Measurement, but maybe also just there's a fundamental limit on how precise you can understand the position or the velocity of a particle. They cannot be not both described infinitely precise.
But why is he doing this? Why is he describing something that's incompatible with Einstein? Is it him making apologetics, do you think, Adam?
I think if he says it, then the contradiction's not there.
Right.
Describing, do you get me? If I say it like this, then the glaringness of it disappears.
It's a rumpus trick. I'll state the devastating failure of my argument up front and then move on past it. Right?
Yeah.
So
bad news on the front
taking
page.
gravity into account then gives us a bit of a problem, because then we have to talk about space-time, and then these quantum uncertainties gives us another way of looking at space-time at a short distance.
Whoa. You're saying that quantum mechanics gives you a way of looking at pseudo-Riemannian four-space reified time through mathematical reification of an Einsteinian idea that you've decided that after you're going to invent it, to maths it, you're going to figure out a way of not having it be invented, but that's somehow the concern of quantum mechanics. No.
He's doing what Brian accused him of earlier, isn't it? They're going backwards to find the causes.
Right.
So once again, they've got something. They've got Heisenberg, and they're going to use that known stuff and interpret it in relation to Einstein. So whatever they see there, somehow they've got to bastardize it to explain how that fits within Einsteinian space-time.
And it doesn't.
No.
You cannot fit this square peg through the round hole. It just does not go.
But I like how
he gave himself away. Oh, you go flat side, I'll go after.
I said I like how he's trying to obfuscate from. No, we don't really want to talk about space-time, but we have to if it just comes up because of Einstein.
Exactly. It's a begging the question loop that he's got himself into. It's like, well, why would we look at Einstein's space-time? Isn't how he's phrased it. It's we've got to look at Einstein because of the work. We've got to look at space-time because of the work of Einstein. It's like he's the one inventing it. It's come from his mind's eye. He's the one that's reified it from his own mathematics. You're saying that that's the cause of why we've got to study gravity because of Einstein?
Yeah.
It's like, oh God. Go ahead, Brian.
That was me agreeing with you. Sorry.
No, my oh God was at him and his reification and circular reasoning that Flatsoid's pointing out.
But we've got the works of C.S. Lewis, haven't we? Therefore, we must explore reality in relation to a wardrobe and how we travel through it.
Right. He has written it down. Therefore, we should really concern ourselves with the time dilation problem of the wardrobe. Yeah. That is something we should concern ourselves with. Why? Well, because of the work of C.S. Lewis. We wouldn't be concerning ourselves with it otherwise.
Well, the part I picked up on was when he said, we have another way of looking at it. You haven't seen it in the first place.
Yes, exactly. That's the best way to summarise it, Brian.
How could you be looking at a second of it?
Exactly. He's justifying a non-reason for looking at it, and it's the original origin of the thing he's supposed to be looking at it. But he hasn't got anything to look at. Exactly. AQE.
This led to problems, and string theory is another way of...
It's not theory. Again, just to explain, theories are based on scientifically validated cause and effect reasoning with supposition of cause for a phenomena you have studied in nature. String theory. No. Definitely not. What's the observed phenomena again? Anyone hear those crickets?
Of also looking at gravity and quantum mechanics, which I've been working on quite a bit.
Oh, have you now? You've been working on gravity and quantum mechanics. I see. So therefore, you've done some systematic experimentation in terms of your quantum scientific validation that you'll definitely have, because it is, and you'll have realised that gravity's a load of old tosh because it has no scientific validation that you've obviously got when you went to quantum mechanics.
So people have studied the problem of quantum gravity.
Sorry, the problem of quantum gravity. Whoa. I thought you were studying the two like they were compatible, but now you're immediately into studying the incompatibility of something. Well, there's no incompatibility. Gravity's not a thing to have an incompatibility with. So no, there's no issue.
Disclaimer.
Say again?
That's the disclaimer from earlier on. The problem of quantum mechanics in gravity, which is what we highlighted as soon as he said, Heisenberg, that he's going to have this mismatch. And now he's just stating it. He's looking into it. But again, it goes back. They've got the quantum mechanics and they're asking, how does this make sense with regards to Einstein? How can we interpret quantum mechanics in Einsteinian theory? Not the other way around. Why? We can throw Einstein away because, look, we've got real physics here and it opposes it. He's not saying that. He's saying, how can I crowbar it back in? How can I resuscitate gravity with quantum mechanics, even though it's a problem?
Which it shouldn't ever be the case if the scientific validation that if you accept that the world has order, then you're not going to scientifically validate the cause of an effect and find that it's incompatible with some other experiment that you've done somewhere else. Yeah, they may not be mutually inclusive, but you're never going to find that they're incompatible because the world works. And if you figured out why it works, you're not going to find, well, because I know how this works, that doesn't. It demonstrates admirably that gravity is nonsense. Suddenly you've got something that is scientifically validated and you've got to back engineer nonsense from years ago to work with the scientific validation of something that you found out recently. It's like, no, your quote-unquote theories from Einstein and Newton weren't ever theories. There was no compatibility or validation given them to in the first place. There was just words from priests. And now you've got to work with actual science to try and go, oh, we can't just poo-poo it. It's actually helped humanity progress. So we've got to engineer in our nonsense to it, so that's a problem. What, with the scientific advancement of humanity being incompatible with your nonsense you made up and called theories? That's not a problem for anybody but you. In fact, it's not a problem. Quite the contrary, it's giving you a job.
Well, I see it differently. I see it as, when it comes to quantum mechanics, that he is such a pseudoscientist that he's one of these people that adds in things like quantum field theory as quantum mechanics, because they, as QE says, they add the word quantum to make it sound like it's part of something more real. And so things like that. So that's why he's able to start making a bridge between the quantum mechanics in his own head and things like general relativity.
So we're gonna have is he going to cover? We're going to get quantum foam out of him.
It's possible.
We'll see.
Quantum mechanics and gravity from very specific.
Go on.
I'm saying, well, it's the same as having me 2 hours ahead of you guys, so I'm simultaneously in the past and the future at the same time, based on gravity that's there, not there at the same time.
Look, I agree. This is being filmed 3 years in the future. Technically, we're all in Aruba right now.
Perspective from string theory, but also by thinking, for instance, about black holes. What happens with black holes?
What happens with them? Well, they're an observed phenomenon.
Hey,
if you're going to claim that, you could actually science them. Go on, whoever that was. Is that Gene?
I'd like to give a shout out to Dr. Becky.
Shout out retracted.
And I've taken some of the things we've learned about it and seen that there is some explanation of maybe where gravity then comes from.
An explanation. Excellent. So we've got what could be, borderline, but could be described as a naturally occurring phenomena in the form of black holes. Right? You could show us something, and you could say that something's happening. Right? So an explanation would be to derive the cause of that effect, if you're going to call it an effect. Natural, yeah, at a push, you could. Okay, so you've got what you call a naturally occurring phenomena of black holes, then you need to suppose a cause of it. Supposition of cause in a prediction is called a hypothesis. If A would be your supposition, A being your supposed cause of the black hole being B. the phenomena that you're studying. So if A, supposition, you will assume causes the black hole, then B, black holes. In a validatable scientific prediction, you've also got the antithesis of your prediction. So instead of if A, then B, if your prediction or presumed cause, then black holes, then if your prediction, not black holes. So when you go forth to vary that which you assume will cause black holes, because you're only ever trying to validate the alternative, so you're going to vary it in the hope that you cause a black hole. Because that's what you're trying to do with cause and effect reasoning that's called the scientific method. So you vary something and see if it causes black holes, and if it does, you've got the validated cause of the effect you've studied, i.e. the cause of black holes. Or you vary what you assume causes black holes and it doesn't cause them. Therefore, you validated that which you assumed to be the cause not to be the cause. You proved that it wasn't. Now, that's what you can do if you're going to explain black holes, because that's what you're getting when you do experiments in science. Explanations. Now, I absolutely guarantee, I will stake my reputation on it, that this guy will not go forth in the next 2 or 3 sentences to state that.
From those...
Nathan,
yeah, go on.
Quickly. Did you say we can observe black holes?
I peppered that with a few Weasley words. Did you not hear them? They say, and
yeah.
you could present at a stretch. Did you not hear all the Weasel words I peppered it with?
The only one I won't lie, I didn't, because I had the same question on that Brian just asked. Like, black holes, don't those have to be a thing before they become a dependent variable?
Where's Arwin? Arwin, argue that there is black holes, that you could show that they're a naturally occurring phenomena. You could do it. You could. I said it was a stretch, but I could easily visualize a globe birth believer coming in and in sincerity saying, no, black holes are a phenomena that I can show you with sincerity, and then present something to make that in some way plausible as a semi-substantiable claim.
I've
right?
got it. I've got one. I'd like to quote Holly. So they are difficult to find, but the thing about a black hole, its main distinguishing feature is it's black. The thing about space, the colour of space, your basic space colour is it's black. So how are you supposed to see them?
Well, because of the fabric of space-time, that would be the medium, the fourth dimension, invented in the mind's eye of Einstein. When a massive black hole has light passing by it, then it warps, or you could say dilates, the light through the bending geodesic of the mass of the black hole. And that warping of the light is what we will actually see. So obviously, given Adam's infallible logic, that if the black hole's black and space is black, then how the hell are you going to see it? Well, you will see the effect, which coincidentally is a gravitational fourth-dimensional space-time geodesic bending effect, causing the light to warp around it in a donut shape. There's your phenomena. Are we all clear about why I used the weasel words? I didn't think we'd get into this, but that's why I put them in there. Just in case I was held to task, which I was.
So the cause of this bending of space-time...
Shh! Don't use that word. Just say what we see. You don't have to say cause.
Okay. We suppose, I haven't seen it, supposedly it has been seen that there is some kind of a circular light phenomenon happens in the sky.
Yes, may I present to you my donut? Insert picture of donut here. Okay, so we're all clear. So we can move on, right? Yeah, I can say he's got
a... not at all.
My example wasn't to... He got close enough for me to say that, here we go, you've got something you could claim to be a phenomena. He is. He's saying he's calling it, he's giving it a name and a title. It's a black hole, right? The fact that it's come out of necessity from Einstein mathematics of geodesics in space-time bending and the effects that would create in his mathematical descriptions, them being attributed to a light that's been seen in the sky, that we would argue. But for the purposes of me disseminating what the scientific method would entail for his claim to be observed phenomena of a black hole, he would adhere to it by varying and manipulating that which he assumed caused the effect he's observing. Now, we could argue the toss all day about there not being a phenomena. It doesn't mean it's not going to be taken as a useful opportunity for me to disseminate what he would be doing if he had a phenomena that he claims he has, if he followed the scientific method, which is where I was going with all of that.
Yeah, but if I can't observe these, that what you're talking about, these donut-shaped lights, then where do we go from there?
Well, you just weren't at the right place at the right time to see the geodesic in space-time bending to cause the light to warp in a dilated, warped geodesic bent space-time phenomena. You know, you just weren't there, man. What do you want?
Excuse
How do
me.
you distinguish?
Excuse me. My citation is, Brenda, the hole in the donut is space-time. Thank you.
Brenda did actually say that. That was actually a Globe Believer's quote. Do you want to say that again, please, Chocolate? Because that's a quote from a genuine Globe Believer who came here to argue the toss about reifying space-time.
Oh, would you like me to share it? I could pass that
yes,
over
please.
to you.
Well, that's what Erik said. Why not?
Yeah. Give me a second.
No worries. We'll have a little bit of this. Go on.
I just want you to know that what the phenomenon that he's claiming is gravitational lensing. Now, there's a lot of stuff that would have to be proven before you could get to calling something that we haven't ever seen gravitational lensing.
Right. I want to know how you make a distinguishment in observation between a black hole with bendy light forming a donut-shaped appearance and a donut-shaped light. How do you make that distinguishment?
I was
between
getting
the
there.
two?
That's where I was going with this guy's interjection,
Right.
though. But that's where this is going to end up, because he's going to ascribe the cause of the light that is the donut to be the gravity, when he's describing it initially as an effect of gravity and the excuse for seeing it, i.e. the black hole and the gravitational lensing. Sorry, what did I call it? I didn't call it. I call it dilating time. It wasn't. It's lensing. Brian's right. Good job you're here. That's correct. Sorry if I got my terminology wrong. If you're a fundy and somehow that offends you. But yes, Brian's right. It's lensing, not whatever I said, which was wrong. Anyway, yes, Adam. He's going to ascribe the cause to it. He's going to say the cause of the light bending around what we are calling a black hole is now devoid of an explanation for why it is a black hole or the light's bending around it, because it's causally linked to my gravity. Now let's get on to proving it, because we found a way of not having to assume it anymore. Suddenly it's a causal influencer.
That audio is in Master D if you want it.
You know the hole in a donut? That's space-time.
You're a moron.
No.
I don't think we need any more. That was brilliant. Thank you, Chocolate. Shout out to Unisox Femi. Donut without a hole doesn't appear to have space-time. Now that's called a jammy donut.
What? But you cut it off. Your response to it, how mad you got, was actually the best part, because it was so stupid.
You're a moron. Shut up.
in a donut
Shut up. Don't
is
say anything
space-time.
else. Don't make me remove you. Shut up. You've got nothing more to add. You're a moron.
In the donut,
I couldn't
Brenda.
care less.
Wow.
You're a moron. Don't
The hole in a donut.
Shut
The
up.
hole
I don't
is
want to
Swiss
have to
cheese.
eject you.
Space-time.
If you want to continue spouting shite about holes in donuts, I'm going to kick you out. Last chance. Shut up. Any evidence?
No, I thought you were about debate. I thought you were about
You
fair
can fuck off right
debate.
now. You can fuck off. I was asking a new question. Now you don't get to take. No swearing, Nathan, from the past. God damn you. No blaspheming, Nathan, from the present.
No blaspheming. No blaspheming in the present.
That's what I said. I agree. 10th. Outrageous.
I know. Okay. That is the fun. That was so funny to think that the gap in the donut is space time.
Right. Let's just come to Brenda's defense. Thanks, 10th. She means what I
Can you
meant.
play that one
No. We've descended it into absurdity because of our phraseology was put to us in that instance. It was absurd, and it is absurd, and we're disseminating how absurd it is. But because of how we've described it in shorthand form as being the lensing of light, claimed to be the bending of light through a geodesic in the mass of the black hole, etc. Right? That is the absence of light in the center of what we're going to describe as a donut. That's what she meant. And she's using shorthand form too. So while we might want to jump down her throat, now that we've just spent 10 minutes qualifying this, Can we all agree that that is what she actually meant? But just by the way it sounds, and after qualification, the way it actually is, it is absurd. Therefore, on the one hand, it's fair to ridicule her, but on the other hand, if you're just going to ridicule her for just saying, well, it's the hole in the donut, if you don't contextualise the fact that she means what we're talking about right now with black holes and lensing of light through geodesics in space-time, she just didn't use that sentence. We can say that, well, it wouldn't be fair to ridicule her just for that, given that we're qualifying it too. And going, oh, the donut.
But she doesn't preface it, and we do. That's the difference.
Yeah, I said Arwen. And because she doesn't, that's why it's ludicrous, and we can, therefore, ridicule her for it. Because it is ludicrous. How it was phrased, how it sounded, and after qualification, how it is.
And it's all wrong, because everybody knows it's not the hole in the donuts, it's the hole in a bagel.
Right, and for you to get away with that would mean...
But we do have a person that has...
Arwen's timing's beautiful. For Arwen to get away with that, and for us to laugh, means we understand the premise of the hole in the bagel is representative of the lens, the gravitational lensing experienceable of the toasty warm dough, right? That's the light. Well, that comparison, while humorous, is just the shorthand form that we're finding funny, and it's not reasonable to ridicule Brenda just based on the fact that she's not saying space-time's a donut. She's just using the shorthand form. But that isn't what we're ridiculing her for. We're ridiculing her because it is a ludicrous notion, and in shorthand form it sounds ludicrous.
Brenda's opening at the shoe is a black hole. It's dilating time.
I can't even defend that one flat sword, so yeah, I'm not even going to try.
No, I don't agree with any of that. Brenda was talking about a donut from Dunkin' Donuts. That's what Brenda was talking about. If you listen to the rest of the quotes, Brenda, if you just listen to Brenda for an hour from 3 years ago, and you'll know she's talking about actual donuts that you can eat, not gravitational lensing. I don't agree with that for a moment.
Get out of town. No.
No, but Brian is right. She was constantly doing that. I mean, remember, dog bones are clocks? She was getting all literal. Like, at first, like, it's supposed to be metaphorical, what she's saying, but then she just makes everything literal as she's talking. It's complete insanity. That's what she does.
Well, to Brenda, phenomena.
She can do it. What? Chocolate. Are you there? So I've got a phenomena of a shoe. Could you give me a hypothesis for that?
It's not a phenomena.
The hypothesis is it's a shoe. So, respectfully to Nathan, unfortunately, as I remember back now, I think she was on donuts, mate, not on...
Do I need to share that one too?
Okay, yeah. I've got to explain myself even further because what Adam said. In isolation, this show, if you just watched this show without any context for what Brenda is or what Brenda does, and you heard us spend 10 minutes qualifying what would be or could be described visually as a donut-looking shape, and then qualify how they would potentially describe it as a naturally occurring phenomena with the mass of the presupposed black hole causing a bent geodesic in space-time to such a degree that light lenses. There you go, that was one concise rendition. Well, given that that would be the context of this show in isolation, it would be unfair for an audience member to hear it and go, well, in isolation, it just sounds like she was talking about what they were talking about. Why would they ridicule her? Now, you can go, well, no, we know she's a complete dumbass. In fact, she was actually talking about Dunkin' Donuts, right? Which may also be the case knowing Brenda. But either way, in isolation, I think I still feel it's worth qualifying, just so it doesn't seem like we're overly harsh when someone's using a shorthand term like donut, even though in this case she probably was actually talking about a sprinkle-covered toasted donuts. I don't know why we're having this conversation. This is nuts. Some days on Flat Earth Debate, it is fun to be alive, you know. Life seems weird until you get here and realise how stupid life can really be.
It's not just nuts, it's donuts.
It is, yes, indeed. Go on, Ted.
Hey, you're all smarter than me.
Go on, Ted.
We've had our fair share of, we've had our fair fair share of these snipe comments from the opposition, from fight the flat earth, saying my hand is not really there, to donuts, to shoe being a natural phenomenon. So, I mean, at some point, these people need help.
I agree. I've got an idea for a video I might do. I put it out in Master B and Ballbusters Skype chat. Did anybody see my idea?
I didn't understand it. I didn't look at the video, so I didn't understand.
Yeah, I did.
You did?
I did.
What did you think?
Yeah, I watched the video in full, and I know what you want to do.
I'm going to need help to do it. So I'll just tell the audience, because it might be that just me describing it is as good as making the video itself, right? So maybe I can put a link to this. Should really do it, because I'd rather the guy got credit, because it's where I've got this idea from. And as I say, just describing the idea may be as good as me actually going to the huge amount of effort of actually making it. Okay, so recently I've got a bit of a bee in my bonnet for Scientology. And one of the guys that I've been watching is called Chris Shelton. And Chris Shelton, whose channel name is Chris Shelton, which is SHELTON, MSC. You can go and check out this video that I am tempted to do a sort of one-for-one remake of. Now, his video is called Recovering from Scientology. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to stick this into Skype, and hopefully somebody will spam this in the chat of the live stream. We're going to stay live for another 10 minutes in case anybody's worried that we're going to, or we have run over, I already know. So I've stuck this in FED back office. Can someone spam this in the live stream chat just while I'm waffling?
Already done, mate.
Perfect, thank you very much. Okay, so in his video, he's going through his, to a small degree, story of escaping Scientology. But he's moreover explaining to anybody who may have come from Scientology how they can best move on from the indoctrination and the cult-like behaviour and the general control of this cult. Now, as he's going through it, and I'm listening to it, I'm thinking there's maybe one or two words that could be changed from Scientology to heliocentrism. And the context and everything around what he said wouldn't change one bit. Now, there is an exception. I think it was points, if I can remember correctly, 5 and 6. But 1 through 4 and 7 and 8 points were one for one. I could just take out one word and replace it with the other. But then when you get to point 7 and point 8, I'd just have to take out pictures of famous Scientologists that are influential in this regard, or in his context for Scientology, and just change it to my context for heliocentrism. You know, so by coincidence, there's even a Neil deGrasse Tyson quote in there for how you should invalidate pseudoscience claims. It's epic. I'd keep that in word for word with Neil deGrasse Tyson as the example. In other words, fundies on the globe, even your own priests tell you how you can disavow their total pseudoscience nonsense, because it's the best of magicians that are using the pseudoscience nonsense that lean on the strength of real science when they claim it. It's a beautiful magic trick that works against them when someone like me comes along. Or when someone who doesn't realise that Neil deGrasse Tyson himself is using that magic trick will use him as some sort of an authority for decrying pseudoscience nonsense like Scientology, when I can use the exact quote from Tyson to decry heliocentrism. And I may well do so. But the point of the video, as I say, is to take people through the steps of how they've been indoctrinated, recognising it and moving away from it. And there's no difference in the control that's being utilised in heliocentrism and the control that this guy's helping people distance themselves from. There's no difference. Now, don't get me wrong, there's a bit in the middle, like I say, points 5 and 6, where it's so Scientology specific that I wouldn't want to try and spin them in any way. I'd just remove them from his video if I remade it and just substituted in a few different characters on the last couple of points and changed Scientology to heliocentrism. So I may or may not do it, but it's worth a laugh, especially if you're interested in what I see as a very close parallel to heliocentrism anyway, which is Scientology. Yeah, it's got some more religious aspects to it, but the basis of the overall faith and what they disseminate about thetans is based in heliocentrism. It's 1 for 1. There's no alteration at all. Anyway, let me know what you think in the comments. If you do actually get to look at that video and watch it, it's only about 10 minutes long. Maybe subscribe to him. He's got some interesting stories about Scientology, and he keeps up with the current legal wrangle dangles that they get into, which is also fascinating. I like that stuff. But yeah, maybe check him out. Maybe tell him Nathan Oakley 1980 sent you. Just 1 second, 10th. So maybe tell him Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me. And yeah, tell him the reasoning for why you're there. Yeah, I escaped a cult too. It's called heliocentrism. Oh, are you still a part of that cult? Oh, how interesting. Don't troll him. Don't troll him. He's a nice guy. Go on, Ted.
When I watched the video, Nathan, I screen captured that Neil deGrasse. It's in Master D, so we were thinking the same.
Oh, perfect. I can actually stick this up, right? I will do. So for the live audience, there we go. Do you want to read it out?
I'm having problems with my internet delay mode here, so I can tell. Why don't you read it?
Yeah, if I'm honest, my colourblind eyes cannot read whatever colour that is on whatever background that is. I can read the bits on his shirt. Someone read it out. Go on.
Chocolate, you or me?
Chocolate, please.
That's what I thought.
What did you say the same thing? Did we jinx?
I knew if it was a preference of who voice to read it out, we'd go silky smooth. So that's why I acquiesced straight away.
Where is it?
In Master B, I believe. Wow, this was super slick.
Cool.
It's right in front of me as well. If I wasn't so bloody
colorblind. I don't have that much
colourblind.
of a delay. I'll just read it. My goodness. Look, I didn't know it was your delay was going to be worse than my delay. I could read it.
You could, or we could have several protracted long
Science
silences.
literacy is not just what you know. I'm trying. I'm going to drop and rejoin.
I'll do it. Bloody hell.
I think we should have more silences. I think we should drag this out more. By the time we've read it, every member of the live audience who isn't only listening as driving along or whatever it is that they do when they're not looking will have read it already. So, you know, as the live numbers drop, actually they're not 107 people watching.
Right. Science literacy is not just what you know, but how your brain is wired for thought. If you can achieve that, you never have to ask if the moon landings are real again. Wow. That took a second to sink in.
Can you read it again?
Yes.
Scientology is not just what you know, but how your brain is wired for thought. If you can achieve that, you never have to ask if the Palladians are real again.
Love it.
Very good, Tim.
But what about the Bolognian people?
But science literacy, what is science literacy? Understanding what the scientific method is, understanding cause and effect reasoning based on hypothesis, experimentation and the validation of the cause and effect that you're studying. That's scientific literacy. Well, if you've got all those things, you'll never be asking if the moon landings are real. You'll know they're not.
He's not lying again, is he? You see how it's a statement of truth?
Yep.
It's just how you interpret it.
Yep. That's why he's my favourite. Neil deGrasse Tyson is head and shoulders above all of the other heliocentric magicians. That's why he's promoted, popularised, given the breadth to do what he does that he is. Because he's good. You know, I'm not going to deny it. I have got a lot of admiration for Neil deGrasse Tyson. When I was a heliocentrist, I did. I enjoyed watching him. Not only for the content that he provided, but for the visual, fantastic nature of the stuff that he would be stood in front of when he was talking about it. The CGI was amazing whenever Neil deGrasse Tyson was involved in the decent production.
And his ties were second to none.
He's very charismatic, and he really knows you how to pull in a story with his voice, right?
He does.
I actually watched that whole Cosmos show that he had. I remember watching it binge watching it with my girl, my ex-girl. Shit, it's like can't believe from there where I am now. It's hilarious when I believed all that crap. But at
Cosmo,
the time
that was the
watching it, I
show.
was always like, this is all nice, very nice CGI.
I was amazed by it.
Yeah.
The other day he said something and he accused God of not being all powerful and all loving. So I have no use for Neil deGrasse Tyson. And everybody was cheering him. They cheer a jerk.
Do you want to do?
It's worth finishing, Erik. It's worth finishing Erik Verlinde, the video we're reviewing. It gets really good.
New way of thinking about quantum mechanics and gravity together. So if you then start trying to explain where it comes from, it has to do with...
You already told us where it comes from. It was imagined by Einstein. He wrote it down and then tried to figure out a way of not having to assume it. So we already know where it came from.
The fact that there's, at a microscopic scale...
Oh, at a microscopic scale, was that when you were trying to figure out a way of not assuming it to be real by using the microscopic what's the word? When it's mathemagical... There's a mathemagicalation. I can't really think of the word. I'm making it up as I go along anyway. But anyway, is
Mathematics. Yeah.
You're going to do it now. Let's not have Alvin stumble over the same bastardization of two words. Right, what he's doing is, earlier, 10th Man pointed out that what he's trying to do is take the mathematics of something he's assumed to be real and describe that as being put under the microscope with his phraseology. And 10th was like, well, why has he used that term? Well, here's why. Because now he's talking about it at the microscopic scale. Well, there is no microscopic scale for the maths, the descriptions that you did. What mathematics? Oh, it was the microscopic mathematics.
Certain information about how you...
All right, I got the word, by the way. It's mathematicalization.
Yeah, but I was trying to slip in magic into that word. That's the word I could have used that word, but I was trying to slip in the word magic in between.
Mathemagicalization. Then.
Perfect. There it is.
And that's what's happening here. This is just from a maths point of view. He's using the term microscopic scale. Well, from my understanding, that's the same as the macro scale. It's only when we go to the quantum scale, we've got different ways of mathematically describing stuff. So why he keeps referencing this microscopic, I'm unsure as it's relevant. Is it to allude to quantum, but not actually say quantum? I don't understand.
Yes, and him inserting gravity and the descriptions of something that was invented by Einstein in or by a means of trying to not have to assume it when they put the maths at a microscopic level. That's how he phrased it earlier on, like 2 minutes earlier.
The way that I when he said it, I'm
sorry. What math?
What's going on here?
Gravity maths for the fourth dimensional space-time bending.
Did he show that?
No, but he described it as the microscopic mathematics.
No such animal. We want to see the mathematics for what he's talking about. Don't we?
Yeah,
first?
I was thinking along the lines of.
Sorry.
We'll have to accept.
I was thinking along the lines of.
10th will keep going. So when you hear someone, you just have to keep going, 10th, because of the delay. You're the only one with a really severe delay, so just keep going. Just plow on, and we'll accept it.
Gotcha. All right. So I was thinking of the number 1, how it could be described as 2 halves equal 1, or 4 1/4 equal 1. I'm thinking logically, reasoning in my mind, how do you do microscopic math? Well, you could break 1 into segments. What's he talking about is ridiculous. It's based on an assumption, something never seen or proven.
Ourselves, we forget about that. And it turns out that if you take that into account in some appropriate way, that you can understand where gravity comes from.
You didn't tell us where it comes from. You were asking where it comes from and trying to figure out a way of not having to assume it. But without giving any qualification, somehow we've now got a way of understanding where it comes from. You didn't give us any of that.
Where what comes from? What is gravity?
He didn't tell us. But now apparently we've got a way through his convoluted word salad of understanding where it comes from what we just pulled apart. Well, there was nothing in that. We pulled it all apart that suggested that we should have any inference of where gravity comes from. But that's what he stated at the end. I don't know if that was in the edit, but bloody hell, no, you didn't. No, we're not. No, we aren't. I haven't got a clue. I know it isn't a real thing based purely on what you said, because we've reacted to it as you've said it.
The theory that Einstein wrote down.
The theory that Einstein wrote down. Writing things down doesn't make them theories. Theories come after experiments. Experiments are the actualization of hypotheses. Hypotheses establishes your presumed cause of a phenomena you're studying in nature. All Einstein did was imagine and write down. It's not a theory.
When you apply it, for instance, to these black holes, you see...
When you apply it to something that is also fundamental to Einstein's quote-unquote theory, so you're now applying things within the theory to the theory,
see that it starts resembling things that we call thermodynamics. That's
Do they? Black holes resemble thermodynamics. What, for example, gas expansion into a volume, when black holes are described to suck all things out of existence. I don't think these black hole things conform with thermodynamic laws in any way, shape, or form. You know, quite the opposite.
A theory that describes how gases move when they give them a temperature or when they're...
Get faster. There you go. That was quick. Didn't have anything to do with black holes.
Pressure and you...
Pressure? What, like the force gases exert on the walls of their containment or on other gases in the surrounding area? Well, that is violated by the very description that Einstein convoluted when he came up with black holes and the nonsense for them. So how are you going to, in any way, bridge the gap between thermodynamic laws and Einstein's nonsense? Let's see how he gets on.
Well, you can apply it in very many situations, but it's some way in which we describe how things happen at fairly large scales.
So you're telling me that thermodynamic laws don't apply at all scales? Or is it just that your problem with thermodynamic laws when you've got a sky vacuum and gas not expanding into it on a very big Earth mass, somehow that's a problem because it doesn't conform with thermodynamic laws? So at your scales, there's a big problem because gas isn't behaving that way in your model for your sphere Earth in a vacuum. That's not a problem for thermodynamic laws. They're just descriptions of things that happen always. Now, if it was the case that the heliocentric model of an Earth as a sphere in a sky vacuum was real, then we wouldn't be calling them thermodynamic laws anymore, because that would be the violation of those laws. Now, we definitely still do describe gas behaviour with laws of nature, because that's how gas behaves, and there is no violation of it. Your model doesn't supersede what we experience in physical reality, and it isn't a problem when your model doesn't conform with reality. Let's just get that clear. Thermodynamics is merely descriptions of things that we see occur always. It doesn't have anything to do with the violation that your model presents to those laws and descriptions of things that occur always.
In terms of not looking at the individual motion of the atoms and molecules, but by just thinking about these objects.
So to overcome the problem, we're not going to look at the physical gas behavior, but we're going to start thinking about it. Why? Shouldn't we just look at how it physically behaves if you're going to be describing fundamental forces in nature? I would say that you'd start with looking at how it behaves, because that's where science begins. Looking at how things behave and asking why they behave like that. Not telling your audience that in this instance, when it comes to heliocentric gravity, you're going to do the polar opposite and literally declare that you're not going to look at the thing that's happening.
Objects like temperature, pressure, and so on, which...
So you're going to think about those things, but you're not going to look at gas behavior. Okay, gotcha. Why not?
Are what I call microscopic...
So we're just going to go on to what you call them. So why are you just like moving around the world naming things? And telling us what we can't look at when you start naming things?
Quantities. I mean, a temperature is something that is just an average of all of the motions.
Motions that we aren't looking at. So we're not looking at them, the motions. We're thinking about them and describing them in terms of their motions. So the problem is solved by describing the motions, but not looking at the motions. That's what he's telling you. Preceded by an, motions, the ones that we won't be looking at. You can tell a lot when people pause.
So the little collisions of...
Collisions? Well, we're not looking at the gas behavior in physical reality anymore, so what collisions? In this haphazard nonsense that's going to be juxtaposed in a gravitational fourth dimension, we're not looking at them anymore, my friend. You told us that we weren't, and then when we got to the movements of them, suddenly we are describing them in your mathematical reification of fourth dimensional space-time bending. Not the actual gas behavior. That's a problem with thermodynamics.
Atoms, say for instance on my skin, if I think about what temperature I feel, it says something about the average energy that each of the molecules in the air is carrying.
Yeah, but you're thinking about the temperature that you experience in your skin as opposed to studying the gas behavior. So you're basically giving apologetics for how you can think of things that aren't what you're studying, in this case, the thermodynamics of gas behavior, and describing something that isn't the thermodynamics of gas behavior and instead the sensory perception of your skin. Well, those two things aren't the same now, are they? One has influence over the other, but you've already told us that we're not going to be looking at that now, are we?
So temperature is not really a microscopic thing I can define.
Is it not? Does temperature not occur at the microscopic level? That seems absurd. Why would you state such nonsense?
And so gravity is somewhat like that in this.
Oh, I see why you'd say such nonsense, because the following statement is going to be about gravity. Of course, and we've qualified already that we're not really talking about how gas behaves.
Sense that the equations that we currently use.
The things, the equations. So it sounds like you're flipping between things that might be occurring in nature that we're not looking at, being described in mathematics, and then being juxtaposed with things that actually happen in nature when we're told that we're not going to be looking at them.
To describe gravity are basically obtained from averaging or at least describing things at a much tinier scale and then forgetting about certain details.
Why? You know, in terms of laws of nature, the thing that are apparently problems for you, they just observe things in nature and describe how they occur. It's not like they're exclusive of certain details. It's just a description of things that happen. Now, those descriptions, not even cause and effect reasoning validated by science, just descriptions, i.e. laws of nature, invalidate the very premises of your models in fourth dimensional space-time. Quote-unquote problems. Not really, just nonsense heliocentrism and its gravity that doesn't exist.
So temperature, for instance, also forgets about how...
Sorry, temperature forgets. Ding, 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 reification fallacy.
All of the individual molecules are moving. We don't...
Sorry, temperature doesn't make gas molecules forget about the fact they're moving.
Have to keep track of that.
They don't have to keep track of them. They haven't got little notepads. Textbook reification fallacy.
But still we can describe quite well how gases move when...
Why not? Just ask them for their notes.
We just talk about pressure and temperature and even...
Talk about it? What about describing it based on the actual behaviour of gas? Obviously, we're not going to be looking at it. And obviously, we're just going to be describing it and thinking about the movements that we're not actually looking at.
Differences in pressure, for instance. Then...
Why have we got differences in a hypothetical imaginary gas pressure that we're not looking at in physical reality described in a fourth dimensional space-time bending? This is absurd.
If you have one room with one pressure and another room with a lower pressure, you simply know that the gas will flow from one to the other.
So if we've got a high-pressure gas that we're all breathing, and we've got a room next to it, let's say it's not really a room because there's no wall between them, but we'll call it a sky vacuum, then we know implicitly that the high-pressure gas will go from here to there. We just know that will happen. This man has just debunked outer space. I'm going to listen to that again.
Pressure, another room with a lower pressure, you simply know that the gas will flow from one to the other.
So there's high pressure gas here on Earth. Let's just bring that up. Why isn't that working? Oh, yes, it is. So here's a picture of a high pressure system akin to the description he gave of one room and a low pressure system. Let's call that the other room. Now, obviously, in his example, he's got a barrier in the form of a wall and a door between the two that he can open to let the pressure equalise. Now, in this example of his bullshit heliocentric sky vacuum with a spinning ball Earth in it, there's no barrier. But there's definitely a 10 to the minus 17 torr claim vacuum next to a high pressure gas. And according to this dude, we know that one will move into the other. Ergo, the sky is not a vacuum. If the sky was a vacuum, then the gas we breathe would fill the space. And with that, I'm going to say, if you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley Premiering streams, then stay tuned, as there will be an after show to follow. Fortunately, if you are watching this live, this is where we bid you farewell. So another massive thank you to all of you who smashed the super chat, liked, commented, shared, subscribed, joined as a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member, and all that good stuff. And another massive thank you to today's Discord and G Plus panels for making today's live show possible. Once again, stay tuned if you're watching on an after show. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.
What a lovely day!
With gas pressure and one room with less gas pressure, it would equalize. I said, my goodness, do they even know what they're saying? So that was one of the big things that he just rounded off the show on. Hold on one second, please. So the whole point is that when we're doing video reviews, you get to break down what people are saying, they're thinking. And this guy is so deep into the begging the question of outer space, black holes, and everything else that he covered. His topic on the video is gravity is not real, or gravity isn't a force, because he realizes the problem, and then he segued to Einstein, and then brought in all the thought experiments of Einstein and made them sound like they were real science. But Nathan was breaking them down every step of the way. And then this last part was the best, because he just destroyed the gas pressure that they say, without a container. It was just beautiful.
I thought there's not going to be another. Searching for Verlinde's point, though. To me, everything that I listened to up till now was disconnected, convoluted, meaningless, pointless drivel by a fantasist. It had no connection. He should be institutionalized.
You just gave the best summary of what happens when someone's in the begging the question and have to defend it.
He's going from black holes to friggin' microscopic temperature on the skin. What the fuck?
No swearing, please.
Sorry about that.
Well, it's more than that. Well, once this is a very intelligent person, and the title of the video is saying gravity isn't a force. And even with that, because of the pre-programming and being in the begging of the question that these things are actually there, so I've got to justify it somehow, this is his best effort to justify something that isn't naturally observed or validated, but is a begging the question assumption on every point.
He's far beyond begging the question. He needs to be institutionalized. It was convoluted. Like I said, disconnected. There was no connection. Convoluted. He jumped topics without transition. It was gibberish.
That's what happens when you defend the undefendable while you're in the assumption, while in the begging the question of your paradigm. That's why I said it was a perfect summary by you.
Yeah, insane is not going to be able to encapsulate him. It was almost, I couldn't even listen to it. I was off in dreamland thinking about something else when the trash guy's coming.
Well, you're looking for something coherent. You're looking for something coherent.
Yep. Yeah. Something connected. Direct connections. This guy. Oh my God. Dude. Okay.
Funny.
Yeah, but it's not just this guy. It's all of them. It's all of them do this. He's very soft-spoken, very learned type, and he's doing it, and we're catching him on every flaw. Then you get the crazies that come on the show, and we catch them on every flaw. The one common denominator between all of them is they believe that you're on a globe that's spinning in the vacuum of space at all these crazy speeds and have to justify gravity, which they don't even know what it is, Earth-based Coriolis, which there is none, R value that should give you Earth curvature, but there is none, but you got to accept it. They're in trouble. They're reeling.
Did you want any more of it, or was that enough? I mean, we got up to about 7 minutes of 8.5 minutes. Did you want any more?
No, finish it out. Finish it out. This is a good segment.
And these kind of differences is then necessary to get things moving. It's fun to think about things like gravity and even, well, what I had in my paper, things like even the laws of Newton, because they do.
They weren't laws. So it's fun to think about them. But why, when you're going to describe them incorrectly as being laws when they aren't?
How is it fun to think about it? I don't find it fun. I find it annoying.
Play a role in one's everyday life. But it's surprising that when I go and walk out the door and something like that, it's not like I immediately sort of think about these things in a different way. But
well, you started this off by saying that this is something that we do experience, and when you generally just experience it in your day-to-day life, you said. But now you're ending the video by saying, when I go out, I don't generally experience these things or give them much thought. So, why the contradiction? Why the complete doublespeak? Irritating. Very irritating.
For me, I think it's more important eventually what will be the implications for understanding not just gravity, but also what's happening in the universe. I mean, the gravity equations of...
How do it go? Is it talking about what happens in our universe? If we accept that that's what happens everywhere around us in physicality, and then immediately juxtaposes that with the equations, the descriptions in maths. Like, no. Go to something that's happening in the universe first, before you get to describing maths. Otherwise, all you've got is the descriptions in maths. Descriptions of what? Well, not something physical. We won't be looking at gas. That's a problem.
He's describing the maths that the maths are describing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
In essence, yes. It's just nonsense doublespeak. It's so irritating.
Yeah. You know, when we say it only exists in the maths, this is the perfect video because that's where he's been all the time.
Yeah, but he hasn't shown the maths.
Well, because that math doesn't exist for the math that he thinks exists.
Are also used in describing the expansion of the universe, the Big Bang theory, are all based on these same equations.
They're also totally invalid, totally nonsense then. Go on.
Bingo, based on equations. Everything's based on an equation.
Yeah, not on a phenomena, but on their maths reified into a description of history.
I'm sorry, we're going to be stepping all over each other. We can't have two alphas in here.
That was one deck, actually. It wasn't that. Go ahead, one deck.
That's why when you do these, I usually don't come in.
Ah, fair enough. No, you go on. You can have the last one.
No, I was just going to say, number one, that you could say it too, but Big Bang theory, that's not a scientific theory. And he said the expanding universe. What's it expanding into there, Erik? That's it.
What I hope is that the ideas that we are now starting to develop for gravity can eventually sort of lead to possibly somewhat better or even more refined way of thinking about the early.
Well, all we're getting is how we're going to think about stuff. Forget about how gas works and how things really are. But one day, with a bit of luck, maybe a lot of money, we can refine our way of thinking.
Hang on. Don't miss it. Don't miss it. We're just now getting started on trying to figure out gravity. Now, never mind, we've used it for hundreds and thousands of years in a false way to put you on the globe in a spinning situation. Never mind all that it's been used for. We're just now defining it.
Yeah. Well, no, we're not even defining it. We're just refining our way that we can think about it. Tenth, don't get ahead of yourself. That's going to require billions.
Oh, no, it won't be in my lifetime. It takes 26,000 years for that star to change position. Yeah, just extend the dates for everything.
Hey, we don't have any lofty aspirations, but I mean, I definitely think we should give these heliocentrists inquiring into gravity just a ton of money. It's only reasonable.
And I think that will influence a little bit more my thinking than...
So refining our way of thinking will influence your thinking. Profound.
Disconnected gibberish. He's insane.
Beings, we like to know where we come from and how the universe sort of developed into what it's now.
What the hell does that have anything to do with anything?
Look, if he refines this way of thinking, then that's going to be able to get him thinking. And in so doing, he's going to know how the universe expanded into nothing. It's obvious then. He's getting there, man. He knows what he's talking about.
I think eventually this will have some impact.
Yeah. Yes, I definitely think you'll have some impact eventually, my friend. That's it.
Absolutely the most fantastic video from their side showing they have nothing.
Yeah, good choice.
They have institutionalization, because anyone that listens to this, let alone, I mean, just your average Joe, but even an actual scientists that listen to this, they're going to call 911.
Well, that would be the right thing to do. But here's the situation. They're in this begging the question argument of everything. They have to survive in it. It's the consensus science of today, the Western world. And so they're doing their best in this room that's wrapped in white leather foam walls so they don't hurt themselves, because this is all they got and they can't figure it out. So they say gibberish stuff, disconnected sentences, because if it was obvious, it wouldn't need all this. So it goes into reality, tells you we're not spinning. I got to prove we're spinning. Reality, that it's the medium and heavy things fall through it. Well, I got to prove a force that I can't prove. And they're in this cycle of craziness. It's now reality. And it's that cognitive pain. Well, but this is this, but I have to believe it's this, and my head hurts, so I'm going to go into more thoughts here. Maybe I'll get it later.
No, you missed a step. Don't go into the thoughts yet. First, you need to think about how you're going to refine your thoughts. Then you get into the thoughts. That way you'll know the universe.
True. That's true. The microscopic thought refining with the microscopic math, with the microscopic particles hitting your skin. Everything.
Whoa. Don't go too far. As long as we're not looking at microscopic temperature, that's a step too far. I picked that for the thumbnail. So on the thumbnail, the bit that I stopped the video on him, so he's got it captioning what he says. He says, so temperature is not really a microscopic thing I can define.
I must have stepped out on that one. What the heck?
Exactly, it's just convoluted double-speak word salad.
That was epic. I love that. I love the way you did that one today.
Oh, Nathan, tomorrow Ballbuster is going to be vacuum of space, man.
Vacuum of space, brilliant.
Yeah, I'm headed back home to Mama.
Cool, excellent stuff.
Was that funded by the Hoover Institution? I think Dr. Kirby was the head technician.
Of all the things you could have used as an example, though it's obviously appropriate because we're talking about the vacuum of space. Hoover is one of those products that you've got to have a level of admiration for the marketing department, because the word Hoover is synonymous with vacuum cleaners, to the point where people will go out and buy a Dyson and their wife will ask them to hoover the carpet.
That's great.
Nathan, I only joined because of that last segments that you did then on what's his name?
Erik Verlinde. Yep.
Yeah, Erik Verlinde. He's obviously, what you need to do is you need to splice out that segment where he speaks, and you need to make a short video where you've got conspiracy cats saying, "Without the balloon, there can be no pressure," and then get you saying like, "Conspiracy cats, how do you have gas pressure without a container?" Because like, obviously you'll be able to find that somewhere, and then present that. And then that is the answer for conspiracy cats, but being answered not by conspiracy cats, but by a scientist. So that he's answering for cats. That's the answer that cats can't give, won't give, and that's the reason why he's vanished. That's so pertinent. You've got to do it, man.
Well, you've done it in the same way as I've technically done the video where I go through the steps that you need to recover from heliocentric cult indoctrination, which is to say I'm not making the video, but just by you verbalizing it, you've made your point. And further to that, in sincerity, I don't want to do Cats and Dan and Sean Hawkins and Rumpus and any of those guys anymore. They've got an open door if they somehow have an issue with us, so they can come in if they feel that we must be talking about them. But I want to do this guy that we did today, and Tyson.
Yeah, but there is a benefit. There is a benefit because Cats and Co. they act as gatekeepers. If you remove the gatekeepers, then there's nobody there's nobody keeping the gate, right? So you can get rid of Cats permanently because he's probably going to take sabbatical for another few more months, right, until the dust settles. Well, the minute he comes back, you just give him that video and say, "There you go, Cats, respond." Obviously, he's not going to do it, but the more you talk about it and the more you make it into an issue, he's going to vanish again. There is a benefit to that because they look up to Cats because he's a high school teacher. Well, that's their main guy gone then, isn't it? Like he can't come back if he does come back. So it's like an armory up your sleeve that you can keep because like that is his Achilles heel.
I like how we've just got a very broad idea of your motivations in this regard, Anthony. So your motivations...
Remove the gatekeeper, yeah.
Well, how you see this whole thing. Me, until you mentioned Cats 30 seconds ago, I haven't given him any consideration from the last time he was discussed on the show. Whereas you see it as like a war with the anti-flat earthers and how to get them to convert or fail as an army or...
No. What I see it as is he is a protagonist that acts as a gatekeeper that all of them idiots all look up to because he's a teacher. It's the exaltation of protagonists that's one of the key fundamental principles for why this is what, like, because that phrase was in that, it was in that what's it called, that case, I can't even remember the case name, but the exaltation of protagonists. Well, he is exalted as a protagonist. Well, if you rip that down, then he's one of the protagonists that can no longer be exalted, which is necessary if you're going to beat the argument of heliocentrism.
Now, you're ascribing too much value to people like anti-flat earthers, in this case Cats, because being opposed to us is just having the divide and conquer application put to us, so that we, the people, Cats being one of the people, us being the other, are fighting amongst ourselves, while the priests are left to disseminate it to the actual masses, as opposed to the people who've fallen down the hill and found themselves in the anti-flat earth pond.
Is it not the case that you're over-personalising it with Cats personally, and I'm...
No, you are! Me! I'm saying I don't give him a second thought.
Hang on, is it not that I'm looking at it from the position that Cats took, rather than Cats as a guy? Because he is put in that position of, like, exaltation. Well, removing that exaltation from that position means that there is no position anymore. It's the removal of that position that's most important. And it can be Cats, or it can be Ranty, or it can be anybody else. It just happens to be Cats. But on that topic, it's killer. It's absolute killer.
Anybody has a minor inclination, right? The Gene guy shoved a YouTuber who's, I don't know, maybe twice the size as me, but generates massive amounts of views, and he's only just come on the scene with 2014 arguments and straw men burning of flat earth models. Now he's just another Simon Dan, another mediocre personality getting it wrong, but ultimately saying that flat earthers are stupid, which is really all the necessity that YouTube has for what reaches the top of the lists. As long as they're calling flat earthers thick and saying Earth's a globe, and then, then they can get it as wrong as they like. It doesn't matter. Well, there's going to be 100 more of them lined up behind him. And on the scale, the guy whose name I can't even really remember, it was far more popular and doing far more views than Cats ever did. So, I don't know why you're asking me if I'm taking it personally when it's obviously you taking it personally to Cats. And I'm not saying it's not a good idea. I'm not saying it's not a good idea to make a video juxtaposing Cats being asked by Tommy, how can you have gas pressure without a container? And then going, we'll get to that. And then putting AI or, in this case, this science guy, whatever he is, I don't even know what he was, saying, well, if you've got a room with gas pressure in it and a room with lower pressure, the high pressure is going to go to the low pressure. Cut to the picture of space and say how it's debunked. Great video. Who's presenting something, by the way?
I am. I'm presenting. Are you ready to go, or do you want to finish off?
I don't know. Anthony's got a few more personal issues he wants to get through with Cats, I think. Go ahead, Anthony.
No, I just had no comment. Because, if you think that this is a personalization, then you're entitled to think that. But you're also entitled to be wrong on the internet. So it depends on what view you take, Nathan.
You asked me if I was not taking it personally. And I've just flipped that onto you, and now when having it flipped back onto you, you say it's just me being wrong on the internet. Okie dokie.
Tony, let me change the topic and indict you further.
Go on.
Yesterday you was asking me where's Ranty, where is he and stuff. Unbelievably, I think yesterday he's posted a video which is titled "Top Flat Earther Owned by AI in Debate." So he's back reviewing Nathan.
Unreal.
The irony was that definitely done after I asked, or was that presumably that was done after I asked?
It says 2 days ago. So,
what channel did it get posted on?
It's on his new channel.
What is it called?
I'm not giving that a shout, am I?
No, okay. Is it one I'm familiar with, or is it a new one?
I'll send you a link in Skype, so you've got it. You can see it and watch. I'll just.
What were you laughing at? I went into the kitchen to get a drink and I didn't hear what you were saying.
So, yesterday or the day before, Tony's just chatting. He was just asking about Ranty. We were reminiscing, and I hadn't seen Iden Irving for a long time. And then, literally, I think it was Flatsoid mentioned it yesterday on his show. He's popped back up doing an auditing video of you with the AI assessment. So it's titled "Top Flat Earther Owned by AI in Debate." It's on screen, mate. See.
It just reeks of "give me attention, give me attention, give me attention."
Yeah, but did he have any points where I actually was wrecked? Because Craig Fight the Flat Earth came in and left the same comment, said you were wrecked by AI, and I was like, okay, where's the timestamp? What part was I wrecked?
No, it's not.
Which Ranty was it? Was it the normal Ranty that speaks colloquially, or was it the one that was spoon-fed by his daddy?
I've not.
The comments are the best part. If you look at down with the comments, I just saw the comments there. There was one from JC Skynight. However, this concept can be difficult to understand. The AI has him sussed all right.
Let me get it right. Hold on. Based on what Brian's just said, the example where they're saying I've taken the L is where the AI gives a seemingly underhanded ad hom in terms of my comprehension ability. Is that correct?
It is three.
Any other examples of where I actually got my ass handed to me? Because I didn't.
That's brilliant. Look.
I think we should just assume that we know that you didn't, and it's just some other purpose for why that video exists. Because it's obvious that the AI was contradicting itself and then doing the old "you don't understand," but doing it more professionally. It's obvious that's what was happening. So the mere fact that the video exists tells you that obviously this video is not about whether Nathan was actually wrong or not. It's something else.
That's why I brought it up yesterday. I'm sick of these people just saying, "Look how Nathan lost. Show me where," and they can't.
Yep.
Yeah, you're getting it wrong though. You're getting it wrong. This whole AI thing.
Go on, Brian.
See, what happened was that Nathan was laughing while going through the process with the AI and showing the videos. Everyone's laughing at it. But people are forgetting something. People are saying the AI is just like the baller. No, the AI is a program, right? And it's programmed to say what it says and come up with the nonsense, everyday rhetoric, incorrect rhetoric that you can find off of any BS Google search. But the ballers are doing that with years. So is the AI programmed, or are all the ballers programmed?
All of the ballers. All of the ballers.
Yeah.
On the last slide of the fourth part, which is members only at the moment, the very last slide, the AI makes apologies for why it is the way it is. And it basically says, I'm just programmed this way. I'm just regurgitating the stuff that I've been fed with. I can't help it.
Yeah. It's like Johnny Five, isn't it? That's the way he's programmed. But you twist the wires back to front, and it's instead of saying Fred, he says Durf, because he gets it backwards.
You might want to have a look at that video, Nathan, just in terms of copyright infringement. The whole Central 5 is just your video.
No, that copyright infringement, that's a tactic that ballers use when they don't like the actual content of the video because it's devastating to them. They use copyright instead. We don't do that.
What you're saying is he's just taken my video and just said at the beginning of it, look how badly he lost. Plays 10 minutes of my video. And at the end goes, thanks for watching. Please subscribe and give me money.
Yeah, 1 minute 17 introduction. And then the last 15 seconds is him. The rest of it is just your video.
Oh, well, in that case, that is copyright dodginess, isn't it?
Yeah.
Don't give a shit.
Yeah, because, well, what you'll have is some brand new fundies, because he has 35.6 thousand subscribers, supposedly. So what you'll have is just brand new fundies who'll come over, or people will come over to your channel thinking, like, what he should do, what I would say to him is he should at least link your channel in his description. He should do at least that for you.
What you should do, Nathan, is you should mirror it. You should mirror it and just basically replay it back yourself and like poke him with regards to copywriting, because he'll probably think he's copyrighted my video without permission. It's your own work. You own the copyright to it.
Yeah, I don't
care. But
care.
it might end up with people coming over, Nathan, to your channel, thinking that you're thinking kind of who might watch it and go, well, I don't really see what happened there. Who may not be in agreement with what Ranty is saying, might come over, even if it was only a couple of thousand people over time, and go, hang on a second, this fella does know what he's talking about. You know, so Ranty inadvertently might help you out, subs-wise.
Yeah, I get the psychology of it. I used to go over to videos like when I could be bothered, or more likely when I actually had time to do such things, and say thanks for the advert, because that's all it is. But the fact that Ranty, hasn't got enough original ideas to generate a video and instead takes what is a good day and a half's worth of my work, editing, and in the initial just interaction, it was a couple of hours to generate that material, to hack it down, for him to just take it and just replay it. Yeah, well, yeah. Some people work and generate material, and others take that material, reproduce it with 2 or 3 words either end of it, and get all the views. That's how it is for us. If that's not a great example of literally Ranty adding 0 value to my work, which is vast in this instance. It was a huge amount of work to produce those videos. I'm not even going to start. It was massive. Long nights, early mornings, just off the back of the initial couple of hours just to get the material in the can to then start editing it. Right? Well, yeah. What will that generate me? Less than 1,000 views. What will it generate, Ranty? I'm going to guess several thousand from doing nothing.
4,200.
Yeah, but let's not forget, though, a lot of his videos get automatically demonetized, and that was one of the main reasons why he vanished, because he was upset that he didn't become a Siaman Dan or a Conspiracy Cats. And now he's back thinking that it's going to change. He'll get about 1,000 views, and it'll be demonetized, and you'll not see him again for months.
4,215 so far. Which is
right.
Is he still monetized?
So somebody who came on the scene to this scene after me, left it, started up on YouTube again, fresh, on the same subject I cover, has in a fraction of the time managed to presumably exceed me in both subscribers and viewers. people turn around and go, flat Earth's dying. No, he's doing the same subject as me. Not only is he doing the same subject, he's literally using my material. And is it distributed the same? Yeah, of course, we've both got the same views. Obviously, the original video's got more because it's the original. No, the original hasn't got more. No, far from it. No, if Dan took the material, it'd get 100,000 views, wouldn't it?
Just goes to show you that what that video really is. To those people that claim that flat Earth's dying, which is what they'll do, it goes to show that all you have to do is ride the shark, and it doesn't matter how dull or dreary you may appear to be. You're going to ride the shark, and you're going to ride it anyway, and you're going to be pushed into the limelight somewhat. Maybe not by everybody, maybe by some, but there's enough push behind you to make you look more popular than what you actually are.
Can I play this video? Because this is more dishonesty, just from a different source.
Yeah.
I have 3 pieces of audio to play. Okay, you might hear me speaking, but you won't hear much of me speaking. It'll be me speaking. To give a bit of background, I corrected Bev, Troy Thinking, on what flat was, because he spent the whole year trying to shame people for stating that the Earth is flat, right? Without using the correct use of the word flat. He was holding them to a geometric standard. Flat is technically not part of geometry. Flat is an aspect. It's an aspect, but it's an aspect. Let's just say if you draw a triangle, then that triangle can be just 3 lines on a piece of paper. And that triangle can be described as having the aspect of flat, right? Now, at a microscopic level, that paper is not flat. It's not 2-dimensional, right? But he was holding people who were saying the Earth was flat to a geometric claim, and he stated in the past year, he has stated many times in the past year, which he was wrong about, and he doesn't address this correction, right? That flat was 2-dimensional. It's like, no. And I correct him and say, no. Flat is a way of describing something that has the appearance of 2-dimensional, or the appearance of smooth. Like the table now feels smooth to me, but at the microscopic level, it's not, and neither is my fingertips. So it's a way of describing, and it's not. Flat is not a measurement. Flat is not a shape. Flat is not an angle. It's not geometry, right? But he was holding people for a year to a geometric standard. So I'm going to play 3 pieces of audio, right? 2 pieces from a video that I made taking excerpts from him responding to me correcting him on this, right? And 1 more from just a couple of days ago after all this, right? And you'll hear the turnaround and the lack of humility that this man has. Now, normally I wouldn't do this, and I don't care. I'm not subscribed to the guy anymore. I don't watch him anymore. But something made me listen. Something told me a few nights ago, listen to the start of this guy's show. Something made me do it. I was about to go for a shower, so something told me, listen to it. And I don't know why, something told me, my spidey sense said something, listen to this.
Play it.
And the last piece of audio will be that. The first 2 pieces won't be. So you just let me know now if you can hear this.
Flat as well, because you're not claiming a shape to the Earth.
Yeah.
You're not claiming it's 2-dimensional. You're claiming it has the appearance of 2 dimensions. It has the appearance of being that way. Right?
You're claiming it has the appearance of 2D, and when everybody knows 2D doesn't exist, and there is no appearance of 2D.
What's that then? Is that not in existence? What about that? Is that not in existence? You know, the screen appears flat. It appears smooth to the touch. But at the microscopic level, just like a piece of paper or a tabletop or anything else that can be described as flat and described as 2-dimensional, at the microscopic level, they have undulations. So they're not flat. If you want to say they're not 2-dimensional, then there's no such thing as two-dimensional shapes. But this is...
I'm just going to stop it here and switch to the next one, right? Now, as I said, I can draw a triangle on a piece of paper.
Brian, before you preface it, can you just play it, because I've had to reset all the levels just to get it okay, and I don't want to reset them. Can you just play the third video? Then I can change them all back and you can talk about it.
The third video, I've three. Do you want me to play that again?
Oh, are you done with all playing of videos?
No. That was only one video. I have 2 more pieces of audio to play.
Can you play them?
Yeah, I'm going to play them now in a second. That's what I was going to do. I was moving on to the second video. I just need to make a point that if I draw a triangle on a piece of paper, that's 3 straight lines, right, making 180 degrees between of angles between internally. That can only be described as flat, as having the aspect of flat, right? And that will be described just like these, as I show, as 2-dimensional shapes. Now he says two-dimensional doesn't exist in reality, yet these are described as 2-dimensional, right? And yet my screen is not at the microscopic level. It has undulations, so it's not 2-dimensional. I just got really pedantic with him, right? Now I'm going to play the second piece of audio, right?
Wait.
Yeah.
Everyone be quiet, and then when Brian finishes, leave a gap so I can reset the audio. Go ahead, Brian.
Okay.
I hope everybody understands that.
Flat exists, a 2D plane does not.
Now you heard it. Flat exists, a 2D plane does not. Okay.
In reality.
Hold on, Brian. If you could... Right, I'll try and make it clear what's happening. Your audio for the playback is incredibly low, so I have to turn it way up. So if you then narrate it, you're blasting the audio out and I have to change it. So I'm hoping that you can just get out of the way all of the playing of videos so I can then put it back so you can talk over it. But I've got no control over the sound level of the video, so I have to turn it way up. So just don't narrate it or give me fair warning.
I'm not narrating it. That is within the video.
Oh.
He is reviewing.
Sorry.
I was going to tell you that, but I figured the heck with it. It was too tedious.
Recording within a recording within a recording.
Okay, just let Brian play the video.
My whiteboard is a flat whiteboard. It's not 2D. The surface of it isn't 2D. The concept that you use.
Now I'm going to play the third one, okay? Now, as you heard, he just admitted that his whiteboard is flat, but it's not 2-dimensional. Which is an acceptance that when he's been at for the past year, trying to shame people when they say the earth is flat and saying it's not flat because there's hills, mountains, and valleys, there is an admittance that he was full of crap, right? Because I corrected him. I had been correcting him previously to that on what flat is. So I'm just going to play the next piece of audio. This is from his video the other night.
Okay, just wait. Give me 2-3 seconds.
Yeah, I'll wait for you.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay.
Yeah, of course you can. Hey, Rob.
I just want to let you know you're a flat shamer.
A flat shamer?
Yeah. That's your new title for flat earthers. You're a flat shamer.
Can you expand on that a little bit?
Well, I was watching the after show of the Flat Earth Superheroes.
Right.
And they were talking about flat, the definition of the word flat, and they all came to the realization that, yeah, the Earth's not actually flat, but we have to describe it as flat, even though it's not flat, and Bev flat shames people.
Oh, in pointing out the fact that it's not actually flat.
Right.
Wow.
Thanks. That's all I had to add.
So they've agreed with that it's not actually flat.
Yeah.
Huh.
But still, you're a flat shamer.
But they're not flat shaming people by agreeing that it's not flat.
No, they'll just say we need to call it flat as a description.
Okay. So
Even though it's not flat.
Is it shameful for them to have to admit that it's not flat?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Yeah, well, obviously.
So we can find the first contradiction here.
Yeah.
As you were talking about contradiction.
Yeah.
Self-contradictory statements.
Yeah.
The Earth is flat, but we should call it flat.
Yeah, it's not flat,
Right.
but we should call ourselves flat earthers because it's shameful if you don't, apparently.
Why are we playing this?
Like I say, I've never heard this. I don't particularly watch the Nathan Oakley.
Jesus fucking wept. Was that Arwen screaming through my bloody ears? Of course it was. I'll try and reiterate again while you all talk.
Promote Nathan.
Right. Don't talk while the video is playing because it blasts out really loud. Have I not said that 3 times already? Okay, should we try again, Brian? Arwen obviously didn't get the message 3 times I said it.
Only an hour, a minute.
The after show is the show where you go into the Discord and listen to them. So, I mean, Nathan has a bit, or you can be is it a member of Nathan Oakley's show?
I've been a member for over 3 years now.
Yeah. But being a member gives you a chance to listen to the after show, is it?
Yeah.
Or something. Okay.
Before it gets posted a couple days later to everyone else.
Mm. Yeah, we don't do that here.
Everything that I just said will be posted in a couple days.
Mm.
Where everyone can go and listen to you being called a flat shamer.
Yeah.
For saying it's not flat when it's not flat, but we just need to call it flat.
Yeah. So would they be shaming me? In after show?
I think that's what they do. I think that's what they do every day anyway. If they really think about what they're saying,
right?
Which they're obviously not.
Hmm.
So if Beth is saying that the Earth is not flat, it's a shame. But if they are saying that, it's not a shame.
Mm-hmm.
Great.
Well, yes.
Didn't bring it up as positive. I just wanted to let you know.
Well,
yeah, just another hypocritical point.
Yeah,
you know, it's okay.
Right?
Yeah,
everywhere.
Contradictions are everywhere, and you have to be able to see them, and pointing them out is what we're all about this year. Pointing out the fallacies within contradictions and stuff. It's dead easy to see them when they show themselves like this.
Okay, I'll wait for you, Nathan.
Yeah, we're there.
Okay. As you can hear there, he's back to saying that it's not flat. He was laughing at how I described it. I wasn't mentioned specifically, but it was we were thrown together as we're supposedly saying it's not flat, but you can describe it as flat, which is not what was in my videos to him and not what he said and agreed to with his whiteboard. So he's back to
my
trying
question,
to.
Ryan. Did that second clip, did he not say his whiteboard was flat?
Exactly, Adam. This is the thing. Yeah. But it's not 2D. And now he's back to trying to claim that flat is 2D. He said the Earth is not flat, but you can describe it as flat. And he's trying to turn it around as if we're shaming him. And he said, they're there to point out hypocrisy and contradictions. He's the hypocrite, which is what I put into my video to him, that he's a hypocrite. They go to him and the rest of them now. They try and bully people, and they're trying to use the word flat. When anyone says the earth is flat, they're trying to bully them and shame them, flat shaming, I call it, for saying the earth is flat, because they're trying to say the earth is flat as 2D. When flat is a description, it's not anything else other than a description. It doesn't state a claim of a shape. There's no geometric claim when you say the word flat. He admitted that his whiteboard was flat, but it wasn't two-dimensional, because it, at the microscopic level, has undulations. And then in a couple of days later, he's back to, we're supposedly stupid, or anyone else is stupid if they say the earth is flat, because it's not flat. You can describe it as flat, but it's not flat. So if it's not 2D, if flat is not 2D, based on what he said and agreed to, and the reason he agreed to that was because he knew I had him cornered, then what is he saying? 3D doesn't exist. You know what I mean? It's that ridiculous. But there was the dishonesty of that man.
I say it before.
And the hypocrisy
I say it before and I say it again. Gaslighting. Turning the lamps up and saying, it's not really flat. And you go, but it is. You just said it was, like moments earlier. No, but that wasn't in a two-dimensional context. Oh, right. So the lamps were really on the whole time then. That's what it's doing.
Yeah, that's what. And I don't listen to the guy. I am not subscribed to him. I haven't been listening to him in over a week. And something made me listen to him the other night. And I heard that. And I don't know why that particular show, someone said, something in my head said, listen to the start of this show for some reason. I put it on for a couple of minutes before I went for a shower. Like, that is the dishonesty level of that guy. You know, I know he is doing what you're saying, which is gaslighting. But his own words, hold him. Go on.
I'm kind of confused about something. The guy that just pointed that out to Bev, doesn't he refer to himself as a flat earther?
Well, see, that's the thing about.
Didn't he come in here and tell us that? Like, I don't got beef with this guy, but I mean, he calls himself a flat earther. I don't get what the fuck is going on here. This is weird.
This is the point. What is the motivation for this? You can see the patheticness of the nuance, but it's going. Is this what gives him significance?
Yes, he wants to undermine us. It's all there in the way they describe us. We're described as the superheroes, right? Therefore, they view themselves as the underdogs. And if we're the established superheroes in this narrative, then by their narrative, they need to drag us down, right? Show how we're wrong. And he's happy to do it with contradictory, gaslighting doublespeak to his own crowd in order to achieve it.
I pulled him on another thing there in one of my videos. I stated that he had stated several nights before I made the video that a flat plane does not exist. And I pointed out to him that horizontal is flat, and all horizontals are parallel to the plane of the horizon. So not only is he claiming, by claiming that a flat plane doesn't exist, that the plane of the horizon doesn't exist, so horizontal doesn't exist. But he's destroying his whole argument. If he's saying a flat plane does not exist, he's saying the horizon doesn't exist. That means horizontal can't exist.
I don't think that is the problem here. The problem here is the usage of the word earth and ground. The ground, it's better said that the ground is not flat. The ground is composed of mountains and valleys and seabeds and riverbeds.
No, you're falling into the trap.
ground is what contains the waters within. Now, the surface of the water is what gives us the horizontal plane.
No, you're falling into the trap. You can take a piece of paper, like A4 paper you put into a photocopier. Take a brand new.
I understand what you're saying, Ryan. What I'm saying.
Hang on.
When we talk about Earth,
Brian, we've heard you. He just wants to respond to you. Just let him. Go ahead.
No. What I'm saying is, Earth is the realm that we live in, composed of the ground and the waters and the sky. That's Earth, not just the ground. The ground cannot be flat because the ground is what contains everything within.
Okay.
And they're equivocating those two words.
The only way to address it is your second quote. Okay, which is where Bev states that the whiteboard is flat. That addresses and shows his contradiction. Okay, it's not flat, is it? There's undulations. Go look up close at a whiteboard. End of story. I think it was AI Overlord and QE or Nathan, maybe, you know, is this not a lexical fallacy that's happening here?
Yeah, but
we're taking the description from one meaning and applying it to the other when there's a clear and obvious secondary meaning in the situation it's used.
Correct. When you talk about Earth in terms of its aspect overall, it is flat.
Yeah,
that's exactly my point. Yeah.
The thing about it is that this is the problem. If we get pedantic about hills, mountains, and valleys, right? If you could go up high enough to see the whole Earth as one body, right? Would you notice Mount Everest? No. The same way as you don't notice those little undulations on a piece of on a flat sheet of paper or on a computer screen, right? Flat is not geometry. You can't hold someone claim if my table can't be described, my tabletop can't be described in any other way but flat. There's no other way to describe it, right? But it's not at the microscopic level,
right?
So, and that's the thing.
Well,
so you can't hold someone to a geometric claim.
There's a useful comparison when you can make it geometric, but only for the globe believer. And it was done by Neil deGrasse Tyson in a quote that often gets used out of context by flat earthers. And that's when he's describing Earth being a little bit more chubby at the bottom. Yeah? Bit pear-shaped. Now, he goes on to describe that if you had Earth as a sphere at the scale of a bowling ball, yeah? And notwithstanding everything he's just said, he's doing this within the context of what he just said about Earth being chubbier at the bottom. He said if you had that chubbier at the bottom bowling ball scale-sized Earth and you ran your hands over it, it would be perfectly smooth. You wouldn't feel any imperfections in it. Because at the scale of a bowling ball versus the scale of the amount of ground they say is on a sphere Earth, even the deepest valleys and highest mountains would be undetectable to your fingers at that scale of a bowling ball. Now, by comparison, as an aspect, as opposed to a sphere described in geometry, the aspect of Earth as a plane, even if we only took into consideration the amount of land masses that we appreciate, and we put that down by comparison to the size of an A4 piece of paper or a whiteboard, and you ran your hands over the surface by scale equivalent to the mass and size of a whiteboard when scaled down for the size and masses of Earth, it would feel to the touch perfectly flat. Because even the biggest and deepest mountains and valleys would be imperceivable at that scale.
Exactly. And the term flat, there is no such thing as a flat in geometry. It's not a measurement, it's not a shape, it's not an angle. It's a description, an aspect. And flat is not a shape. So when you say the Earth is flat, you're not claiming a shape. So this guy is out there for a whole year trying to flat shame people and have people getting all, well, I suppose it's not really flat, it has a hill, you know, this kind of rubbish. It's like, no, he is using illogic, right? And he's trying to hold people to a geometric claim, right, when something is not a geometric claim. And he admitted, and the reason he said that about his whiteboard is because he knew that what was written in the video what I had written down and explained in the video that he was reviewing, he knew that if anyone watches that he would be wrong. So he had to state, well, my whiteboard is flat, but it's not two-dimensional. Yeah, but someone can't, but he'll jump to the throat of someone claiming the Earth is flat because the hills exist. You know, I don't want to be focusing on this guy because I think he's just a fraud. I know he's a fraud because I know he's a liar. and I know he has used fraudulent tactics, and he is a hypocrite, and he contradicts himself. But I just felt that needed to be played.
Sure. Well, he's a proven liar. I've got a video entitled "Bev is a proven liar. Watch him lie" here on Flat Earth Debate, because he did. You know, 10th had him completely over a barrel when I was trying to pin him on what you could use elevation angle measurements to Polaris for, what could be done with an angle. And he said, I don't know. I haven't got a clue. I'm totally clueless. And then 10th says, well, no, you told me specifically that you knew you could get your angle, you could get your latitude instantly with an elevation to Polaris. Who's ever off mute? Can you pop yourself on mute? So therefore exposing his shameless and outright lie. Well, we know he's a liar. We've proven he's a liar. We can show him lying. So yeah, I don't know why you're interested in me either, Brian, but there we go.
Hey Nathan, just on elevation angles, a quick few words on that, if you don't mind, if it's okay, just to
go ahead.
Give you a few words on it. Yeah. So the elevation angle has got definition. Let's look at the words and take a listen. It's the angle between the horizontal plane. Let's just break that down again. Angle, as in two straight lines. Horizontal, parallel to the plane. Surely we don't need to repeat that again. So, it's an angle formed by the line of sight. Above the sea level, works just right. Level is horizontal too. If the Earth was curved, elevation angles would not work for you.
Very good.
Bravo, bravo, bravo.
Bravo.
Was it Anthony that was trying to get something in from G+? Thank you very much, One Deck.
No, he was just off mute.
Just causing chaos.
Yeah. Well, I have a more on-topic thing to talk about here if you want to talk about it.
Is that what you presented?
I would, real quick, I just want to say, One Deck, you need to gather all those and make like a nice little compilation of that. Because your poetry's off the chain. I like it.
It is great, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
Well, if it's off the chain, how can he give you a link?
It's fucking
Hardy, her.
Right, Brian, I got your stuff presented.
Well, yeah, this is something I'm going to show one I made as well. This is something Flatside made there some months ago. Now, I made something like this several years ago, something similar to what Flatside did here. And before me, Gleam made it, right? And it was a way of pointing out to the ballers when you know this rubbish about how did Polaris work on your model. At the time, we weren't after being learning about elevation angles and stuff like that. And this is just it was just basically a graph on how Polaris and its apparent drop or rise rate works, right? And as you can see here, you have these spacings out at the bottom of people and different angles, right, and what they would mean, right, here. Now, I'm going to show there's two parts here. One part of Flatside's is the same as mine. One part is different. His horizontal is different from mine, but only, not that it matters, because he still got the point through. Here's my one. Now, the difference in my one is that my horizontal is longer, right, than the vertical, right, because I used actual distances in GeoGebra to do this. But the thing that's the same, if you look at his, look at mine, is this. As you can see, for the observer, the angle will be still the angle for the observer along the horizontal. This is spaced out from 90 degrees at the GP point of Polaris to 80, 70, 60, 50, 40, 30, 20, 10, and 0, right? But you know the way they add in celestial refraction, right? Below 20 degrees, right? Now, if you look at both of these, I just keep it on this one for a moment, but Flatside's is the same. What you'll notice is from the 80 degrees point, the spacing between 70 and 80 is less between 70 and 60, and that's less again between 60 and 50, and it goes so on and so on and so on, right down to where you get to 30 degrees, and there's the spacing between 30 and 20 degrees, it takes up the whole of between 80 and 50 degrees nearly, right? And then between 20 and 10 degrees is way bigger again, and 10 and 0 is the biggest gap. So what I'm saying is what they observed was the Polaris and the stars appearing to slow down when they get close to the horizon. Now, if you're coming from a...
That's a quick question,
Sorry?
Adam. Adam, is this a squared function?
No, I'm going to disagree. I think Brian needs to go through this because I'm likely to disagree with what's going to be claimed, but I want to hear it properly first.
Okay, carry on, Brian.
Yeah. What I would say is that when they got to the point of adding in celestial refraction, as they call it, right? What happened was they were pre-assuming that the reason the stars were moving was because they were rotating, very likely. And when they got to the point of the stars appearing to slow down, getting close to the horizon, that made no sense to them. Once it got below 20 degrees, the stars began to behave different in their apparent drop rate, and then below 10, they really behave different. Now, if you thought that you were on a rotating globe, and the reason the stars are going towards the horizon is because you're rotating away from them, right? Or they're, right? Then it would make no sense for the stars to appear to slow down getting close to the horizon. Now, for the observer, if we look over here, I'm just going to zoom in a bit, right? Sorry. If we look here, there are only small little angles. There's a 20-degree angle and a 10-degree angle. But when we come over to here, it's a big distance, right? So what I'm saying is they came up with celestial refraction very likely. I can't say it for definite, but I think it was only a way of them explaining as to why the stars are appearing to slow down when they are below 20 degrees.
That is what it is.
Well, that it is refraction. Is that what you're saying?
What you're asking, is refraction just an excuse for why the stars slow down when, if you were rotating away from them on a sphere Earth, they'd speed up and disappear very rapidly at the horizon? That would be the logical inference. But because they don't, they do the opposite. They slow down, which for us, if we were going to ascribe some physicality to the stars, which is difficult to do, but I will for this example, you can say that they're receding into the limited angle of view, into infinity. But as that occurs, it's going to slow down because you've got more and more distance to squeeze into a more and more limited angle. And as it does so...
It's got a name for that, Nathan.
Go on.
It's called convergence.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's not that's not what's being demonstrated here. No.
Well, one second. Just let me finish it for a second, Adam, and then you can critique it.
Because
I'm not
get to the end point.
Yeah. I'm not attached to this as the overall be all and end all. I'm just pointing out some things. That for the observer, the angle is the same. So for the observer, what they're seeing is that at P is 10 degrees. So that 10 degrees, it appears that the star is only 10 degrees off their horizon. But if we go by this graph, then the star would be appearing to be a lot higher than what they perceive it as being, because it's perspective. So I'm stating that it's possible that the stars appear to slow down simply because of perspective and the fact that the distances in the drop rate, because this is a prospective drop rate, this is not actually happening. This is a prospective drop rate, that the drop rate is changing between every 10 degrees. And it's increasing between every 10 degrees, and it's not really noticeable till they get to around 20 down to 0. That's what I'm stating.
With.
Okay.
That's the point. That graph doesn't demonstrate that. That would require one fixed position and lots of different readings to them to measure the angles. What we've got here is lots of different positions to each different degree.
Right. The way it'd be plotted correctly would be with one single position with a dome over the top to represent perspective as you're describing it, which is how they represent the celestial sphere.
I know, I have to disagree with that.
No, that's not. It wasn't agree, disagree. That is how they represent the celestial sphere. You're at one position at the centre, with the angles out to the horizon being what's represented at the edge of the flat equatorial plane. That is what it's done like, as opposed to you moving the angle back towards the line of the graph on the left in this example.
No, I'm not disagreeing with I'm not disagreeing with what you said about the celestial sphere. What I'm disagreeing with here is that this is spaced out at 600 nautical miles, for each from A to B, B to D, D to F, F to H, blah, 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 right? It's spaced out that way, right? So for an observer, when they get to 600 nautical miles away from the GP point of Polaris, right, this is what they see, right, as an angle, right? Then 70, 60, 50, 40, 30, 20, 10. This is where what I'm doing is I'm showing it as it would have, as the latitudes would have been created. So the latitudes are based off of perspective, right? Going back away from the GP point of Polaris, which is A here, all the way back to 0 here at R, right? So I'm using it, I'm laid this out exactly as it would have been done, obviously not orthographically, but how it would have been done in reality, is they formulated that when they got to 80 degrees, right, that there would have been 600 nautical miles, because it would have been 10 degrees, and each degree would be then 69.04 statute miles, right? But I worked this in nautical miles, so they worked it out this way, right? So this is my point: is that I just did it on as a graph exactly how it would have happened in reality.
Yeah,
that's
agree.
the point I'm making.
Other than not knowing what the stars are to ascribe some perspective effects to them, because if they had those, if I was to ascribe those perspective effects, I would expect there to be some degree, no pun intended, of change to what I perceived as I raised in altitude. In other words, if I'm assuming that there's a ceiling for the sake of argument, in the same way as I raise up in a narrow hallway against the ceiling lights, I can limit the angle, right? Now, if the light is dangling on a cord and I raise up, I can change or create parallax with the background behind it if I'm raising up beyond it. Now, neither can be attributable to the stars when you raise in altitude. Therefore, there's no perceived opening of the angle, as has been hijacked to create Earth curve in their mathematics. So there's no contrast that I can ascribe physicality to in order to describe it as being a perspective effect. However, other than that issue, I absolutely agree with you. It's reaching a limitation, the star that is, above the ground that it's at as it moves over the ground. Now, the ground itself, if you look into the distance, if you were on a boat backing away from a star that will be backing away from a piece of land, let's say you're on an island that's 100 miles out at sea, and you literally drive away from the island, but you're stood on the back of the boat watching it get smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller into the distance, reaching a limited angle. Eventually, it disappears, and you go another 50 miles, let's just say, and then eventually you reach the next landmass. But then you measure the star that's above it at that point, and it's, shock horror, really high up in the sky because it's really close to you. Now, if you take the same example and push it out as Brian's done in the graph, but in orthographic view, another 5,000 miles, what's going to happen to the mass of the land that's already long gone because it's too small? Well, it's in an even more limited angle based on our understanding of how the plane works and how perspective works. Now, the star's still above that land at that given time, that if you manage to get a super fast boat that went 5 million mile an hour to get there at the same time, but notwithstanding that bit, you've reduced the angle right down to the horizon. And as it's got there, it's reaching that point where it's in less and less and less space for more and more and more land. Now, for the stars, you'd say, well, if that is a physical item, I can appreciate how as it gets to that more and more and more limited angle, it's going to slow down. But, and I hope you'll just immediately agree with me because it's your example, Brian, would that not mean that when it reaches the horizon, I can interact with the angular relationship of the star if I raise in height. But you can't. It will remain the same angle.
No, you can't, and there's a good reason for that. You see, this is where people get confused. Because people can do that with the sun, they think the same thing should happen with the stars. No, it actually doesn't happen with the sun either. Because when the sun appears to be hitting the horizon, it's not the sun. It's called the sun mirage. So what happens is because neither the horizon or the sun, when it's at the horizon, none of those are physical. I don't know what the sun is.
No,
anyway,
okay, I get what you're going. No, I appreciate.
So when you raise an altitude, you can see the sun again, and then you see the same mirage effect happening a second time. You think you're seeing the sun set a second time. If it wasn't for you have the size difference of the sun. The sun is much bigger in size in our sky than the stars, right? From our perspective. So you're never actually seeing that happening. The sun is never hitting the horizon. It's that it gives the appearance of because of what the sun is doing, which is creating heat and that, and it causes that sun mirage. So people think when they go up higher and they're seeing the sun set a second time. No, it didn't set in the first place. That's the problem. So the stars aren't setting. What's happening is when you go higher, the stars are still, the star you're looking at that got to your horizon is still at your horizon. Because it's actually, when you go higher, you're not changing the angular, you're not changing anything between the horizon and the star. Nothing has changed when you go higher. You're not changing that. You can't change it because it's gone away.
You are, but because it's smaller, you don't have any wiggle room to open the angle to it. It's already, in camera terms, 1 pixel to begin with. Well, if it's not, like the sun in a zoom lens where it's wide enough, let's call it 100 pixels, it can reach that point of limited angular resolution because of your low angle to the deck, and therefore it can literally disappear into that limitation of your angle to the deck because you haven't got a wide enough angle to resolve the sun. Ergo, when you go up to the top of the building and widen your angle, you get to see it again merely because you've widened your angle across the deck. Ergo, you're saying it hadn't gone down to begin with. You just had a limited angle to it. Hence, the area around you was still lit, even though from your vantage point with a very low angle, you couldn't see the sun anymore. But it hadn't actually set. They call that, in heliocentric terms, the refraction of the sun beyond the geometric limitation. But with the star at 1 pixel in a camera, you're not going to be able to have that effect where half of it goes into the limited angle and then you whiz up a building, a high rise, and see that it's been resolved where it wasn't before. It's too small to do that, right?
Yeah, and it's not going to create heat at the horizon either, so you're not going to have even a mirage effect.
Gotcha.
So, like, the real point I'm making here is if you look here at P, which is be 10 degrees, back to R at the backyard, which is 0, that distance between P and R for an observer is exactly the same as between B and D, which is from 80 to 70, right? But up here, 80 to 70 is only this little small area, whereas from P to R, the same exact distance horizontally has this happening between 10 degrees and 0. So for the observer, they think that the star is slowing down. It appears like the star is slowing down its apparent rate of drop. And they couldn't understand this, so they added in celestial refraction.
That's not what that graph shows.
Well, that's what it seems to me that what's happening here, because this is a 10-degree angle.
Okay.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm not trying to overcome.
Well, we got what you think, but obviously Adam's just about to disagree with you. Go ahead, Adam.
I'm not disagreeing with what he's saying. I'm just saying that graph doesn't demonstrate that. It's not what's happening, because those gaps aren't what the observer's seeing. It's the total reverse of the compression that you're seeing there. But the way it's been drawn out graphically means you think you've got that. Look at the bigger gap. The bigger gaps are irrelevant because they're all based on different viewpoints, vantage points, and it's relative gaps between different vantage points. And so what you can see happening in this graph is the limited angle from the zenith. When you look up at and these are all the same star, remember, or this is all in the same position. So like we limit the angle to the deck, we're limiting the angle to the sky, and that we're looking straight up at the zenith. And then we take the next point, which is further away. So it's a completely different triangle. So comparing the different rates, of course they'll change because it's a trigonometric relationship between the length of the adjacent and the hypotenuse that's creating that opposite variations in length. And that's all we're seeing there. But what we're seeing is not from one vantage point. We're seeing comparisons from 10 or 9 or whatever it is. So the graph isn't demonstrating what you're describing. It's demonstrating it in the complete reverse way.
Adam, can I ask you a question? So the angle he's got from, it looks like B to C is 80 degrees. If you remove all the other imagery, that would be the gap from C to A with none of those other lines. So that's a big gap. But then if you look at the angle from P to Q at 10 degrees, and you remove all the other lines, then the gap would be from Q to A. So what you're saying is that if you remove all these lines, there's a bigger gap from C to A, looking at it from B, than there is from Q to A, looking at it from P.
If you plot the graph like that, that's how it's going to look. But all the graphs between A to B, B to D, D to F, they're all the same.
No, that's the angle.
Going away. So what does this show? It shows you how the lens works. Look at the curve. Look at the curve. But if you take the line of best fit through all those things, you see a curve.
Right. Plotted in between all the lines, as opposed to on the...
I'm not clear on what Adam... Sorry.
Well, it's just what you've ended up with when you do the comparison is the curve that should be represented over it from a single position, plotted out, but it's moving its way along the graph. If you look at the kind of curve that's represented with the difference between them all, along the top edge of the graph.
Yeah, but you can't have a single position, because that is, if you're going to show it orthographically, you can't have the star in a single position, because you don't know what that single position is for a star. And orthographically, you can't depict the perspective in that way. I've used the exact distance from the GP point of Polaris to the equator here. So from A to R is the exact distance, and all the parts in between are all 10-degree increments.
Sure.
So I just would like to know, are you stating, Adam, that what I'm showing here is not the reason why the stars appear to slow down at the horizon, close to the horizon?
Yeah.
Well, would you state that it is refraction then? Because I would kind of disagree with that.
When you say slow down, the slowing down's not what you're demonstrating here. The slowing down only occurs below 10 degrees. It's not slowing down. If you take any observer, okay, and let the night pass. So if I take and the stars come towards me, the angle the rate of angular change doesn't change until you get below 10 degrees. That's when it starts to slow down, because that's why we don't take stuff below, because it's not in the right position anymore. But that's when the slowing occurs, in my understanding. But there's no slowing being demonstrated here. All we're seeing here is how triangles play out at differences and the shapes that it makes. But that shape is not related to the claim. And in fact, if anything, the graph shows the complete opposite. It shows an expansion of distance, which means you would have a greater field of view to it. But we know in reality that what's happening is the field of view is becoming more limited and harder to define. That's the slowing down, as I understand it.
Well, no, I would have to disagree with you.
Well, I would totally agree with Adam.
Let me run something by Adam.
I just want to express my agreement with Adam. Yes, I would totally agree, even though Brian's about to disagree. But yes, 10th, then Brian to respond. Go ahead, 10th.
All right. Well, we know whatever you're experiencing, it doesn't change 15 degrees an hour. Now, we have daylight before the sun actually is visible. So if we reverse it and look at sunset, or as the sun is fading out or going away from us, it's going to match what happens at sunrise in the sense that we see the daylight first and then we see the sun. So at sunset, we're going to see the sun disappear, but the daylight, twilight at that point, more properly, lingers for a while. But what doesn't change is that 24 hours later, it's back at the same place because it's 15 degrees an hour. And if you base your logic and reason on that, then it's just a perspective issue. Plus, you got daylight and the actual sun separating because you lose the sun, but you still have what's left of the casting of the light until that goes away. Does that help?
A little bit. Go ahead, Brian. You can have the last word on this.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, my point here would be that this observer here is getting the 10 degrees at P. For them, all they're seeing is 10 degrees. They're not, like, they're just seeing 10 degrees. So when they get from that 10 degree mark, they go back to 987654321 at R, right? For them, it may appear that the apparent drop rate of Polaris is slowing down, right? Because of the degree and what it's doing with perspective. Because this is a 10-degree straight line that is directly over the GP point of Polaris. So my point being is it may appear to the person that's going from 10 degrees back to zero, or even 20 degrees to zero, that the star or whatever, the drop rate is appearing to slow down simply because of how the angles are working for them prospectively. Because this is not an actual thing on the vertical here. This is showing what that angle will be. So if
yeah, and that's the point. So you can't measure the distances on the y-axis between them to represent anything.
And with that, I'm going to say another massive thank you to today's Discord and G+ panels for making today's after show possible. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I'll see you all in the next video.
What a lovely day!